This morning, CEO Alyssa Grant fired Ryan Mercer without a second thought. 20 minutes late, no excuses accepted. By noon, he'd taken down 4 armed mercenaries to save her life, bleeding on her showroom floor while she stared in disbelief at the man she'd just destroyed. What she didn't know? Ryan was once the soldier who nearly captured the world's most dangerous tech criminal. And that criminal just found him. Stay with me until the end of this story and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this journey goes. The fluorescent lights of Mercy Pediatric Urgent Care buzzed like angry wasps above Ryan Mercer's head. He sat in a plastic chair that was too small for his frame, his son Theo curled against his chest, small fingers clutching Ryan's worn jacket. The boy's forehead burned against Ryan's collarbone. 102.4 degrees, the nurse had said. High enough to worry. High enough to make every other concern in Ryan's life dissolve into background static. "Dad?" Theo whispered, his voice scratchy and small. "Am I gonna be okay?" Ryan's hand, scarred across the knuckles from a life he'd left behind, moved gently through his son's sweat-dampened hair. "You're gonna be fine, buddy. Just a bug. We'll get you some medicine, and you'll be back to crushing me at Mario Kart by tomorrow." Theo managed a weak smile. 7 years old, and already he'd learned to be brave in ways no child should have to. His mother had made sure of that before she left, walking out when Theo was 3, leaving nothing but divorce papers and a forwarding address that led to a disconnected number somewhere in Nevada. "Mr. Mercer?" The doctor emerged from behind a curtain, clipboard in hand. She was young, efficient, kind in that professional way medical staff learned early. "Good news. It's just a viral infection. Nothing serious. I'm prescribing children's Tylenol for the fever and plenty of rest. He should be back to normal in 2 to 3 days. Relief flooded through Ryan like cool water. "Thank you, doctor." "Keep him hydrated. If the fever goes above 103 or lasts more than 3 days, bring him back." Ryan nodded, already mentally calculating the cost of the visit, the prescription, the time off work he couldn't afford. His bank account currently held $247.83. Rent was due in 6 days. The urgent care visit alone would be $150, maybe more. But Theo was okay. That was all that mattered. He carried his son to their 15-year-old Honda Civic, dented passenger door, check engine light permanently glowing like a disappointed parent. Theo fell asleep in his booster seat before Ryan even pulled out of the parking lot. The clock on the dashboard read 8:47 a.m. Ryan's shift at Anderson Prestige Motors started at 8:30. "Damn it," he breathed, pressing the accelerator. Traffic was already thickening, the morning rush hour turning the highway into a parking lot. He grabbed his phone at a red light, thumbs moving quickly across the cracked screen. "Ryan. Sorry, running late. My son had a fever, had to take him to urgent care. We'll be there by 9. He sent it to Marcus, the service manager, a decent guy who'd cut Ryan slack before when Theo had an asthma attack last winter. Marcus understood single-parent struggles. Marcus had 3 kids of his own. The reply came back faster than expected. "Marcus, CEO is on site this morning doing evaluations. She's already asking about you. Get here ASAP." Ryan's stomach dropped. Alyssa Grant, the 32-year-old CEO who'd taken over Anderson Prestige Motors 8 months ago, was a legend in the luxury automotive world. Brilliant, ruthless, and apparently allergic to excuses. She'd quadrupled profits in 6 months by optimizing personnel efficiency, which was corporate speak for firing anyone who didn't meet her impossible standards. Ryan had never actually met her. He was just a vehicle delivery specialist, practically invisible in the company hierarchy. He picked up luxury cars from auctions, delivered them to wealthy clients, kept his head down, and collected his modest paycheck. It wasn't the life he'd imagined for himself, but it was honest work that let him be there for Theo. Most of the time. He pulled into the Anderson Prestige Motors parking lot at 8:51 a.m., 21 minutes late. The building gleamed in the morning sun, all glass and polished steel, a cathedral to expensive machinery. Inside the showroom, he could see the morning staff moving through their routines, polishing already spotless vehicles, arranging brochures, preparing for the day's wealthy clientele. And standing in the center of it all, clipboard in hand, was a woman who could only be Alyssa Grant. Even from the parking lot, she commanded attention. Late 20s or early 30s, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Ryan's monthly rent. Dark hair pulled back in a severe ponytail, posture like a steel rod. She was pointing at something, speaking to Marcus, who nodded with the enthusiasm of a man trying very hard not to get fired. Ryan took a breath, checked that Theo was still sleeping, and cracked the windows. 5 minutes, buddy, he whispered, though his son couldn't hear him. Just let me explain, and we'll go home. The showroom doors opened with a whisper of expensive hydraulics. Cool air, scented faintly with leather and new car smell, washed over him. The floor was polished marble, reflecting the million-dollar vehicles like a mirror. A Bentley Continental, a Porsche 911 Turbo S, a custom Aston Martin that probably cost more than Ryan would earn in a decade. Ryan! Marcus spotted him first, relief and terror competing on his face. You made it! Listen, Ms. Grant, you're late. The voice came from behind him, crisp and cold as a February wind. Ryan turned. Up close, Alyssa Grant was even more intimidating. Sharp cheekbones, intelligent gray eyes that seemed to calculate your worth in milliseconds, an expression that suggested she'd found his particular equation lacking. Ms. Grant, Ryan began, keeping his voice steady. I apologize. My son woke up with a fever this morning. I had to. I don't accept excuses, Mr. Mercer. She glanced at her clipboard. She'd already known his name, already decided. Your shift begins at 8:30. You arrived at 8:51. That's 21 minutes of company time wasted. 21 minutes, Ryan repeated quietly. Something in his chest was tightening. He'd faced insurgents in Kandahar, survived firefights in situations where 21 seconds meant the difference between life and death. And now he was being lectured about 21 minutes. Ms. Grant, Marcus interjected, taking a brave step forward. Ryan is one of our most reliable. Was. Alyssa didn't even look at Marcus. Her eyes stayed fixed on Ryan. Past performance doesn't excuse present failures. We have standards here, Mr. Mercer. Standards that you clearly can't meet. Ryan felt something old and dangerous stir in his chest, the part of him that had been trained to neutralize threats, to respond to disrespect with overwhelming force. He pushed it down. That life was over. He had Theo now. Theo, who needed him to swallow his pride and keep this job. It won't happen again, Ryan said, hating how the words tasted. You're right. Alyssa made a mark on her clipboard. Because you no longer work here, collect your final paycheck from accounting. You have 15 minutes to clear out your locker. The showroom went silent. Even the usual soft jazz playing through hidden speakers seemed to pause. Marcus looked stricken. 2 other service technicians, guys Ryan had worked alongside for 9 months, stared at their shoes. Ms. Grant, Ryan tried one more time, keeping his voice level. I'm a single father. My son is 7. I need this job to... Your personal circumstances are not my responsibility. Alyssa's tone didn't change. Not cruel, just utterly indifferent. You were hired to perform a job. You failed to perform it according to our standards. The decision is final. 14 minutes, Mr. Mercer. Something in Ryan broke then. Not dramatically, not visibly, just a quiet internal snap, like a guitar string tuned too tight. He'd fought for his country. He'd saved lives. He'd come home with wounds that would never fully heal, only to watch his marriage collapse and his career options evaporate because former special operations soldier didn't translate well to civilian resumes. And now this woman, this privileged, cold, perfectly dressed representative of a world that had never seen real hardship, was throwing him away like a broken tool. Understood, Ryan said quietly. He didn't argue, didn't plead, didn't give her the satisfaction of seeing him hurt. He simply turned and walked toward the service area, his boots clicking against the marble floor. Ryan, man, I'm sorry, Marcus caught up to him in the hallway. I tried to tell her you're solid. She wouldn't listen. She's been like this with everyone. 3 people fired this week alone. It's fine, Marcus. Ryan opened his locker, empty except for a photo of Theo at the beach last summer, all gap-toothed grin and sunburned nose, and a backup phone charger. He pocketed both. It's not fine. You got a kid. She can't just... She can. Ryan closed the locker. And she did. Don't worry about it. Take care of yourself. He shook Marcus's hand, a firm grip that spoke of respect and finality, and headed for the door. But accounting was near the back of the building, through another set of doors, past the service bays where mechanics in pristine white coveralls worked on vehicles worth more than houses. Ryan moved through the familiar space, nodding to colleagues who avoided his eyes. Everyone knew what had just happened. Everyone knew they might be next. The accounting office was small, cramped, smelling of coffee and stress. Sharon, the 60-year-old woman who processed payroll, looked up from her computer with genuine sadness. "Oh, Ryan, I heard. I'm so sorry, honey." "It is what it is." He tried to smile. Failed. "Just need my final check." "Of course." Her fingers moved across her keyboard. "Let me just... Oh. Oh?" Sharon's expression shifted from sympathetic to confused. "There's a note here from Ms. Grant. Your final paycheck will be mailed within 10 business days as per company policy." 10 days. Ryan had $247.83 in his bank account. Rent was due in 6. Theo needed medicine. They needed food. "Sharon, I know, honey, I know, but my hands are tied. She's authorized it personally. I can't override it." Of course she had. The final twist of the knife, not content to just fire him, but to make sure he felt every bit of the fall. Ryan nodded. "Thanks, Sharon." "Ryan, if you need anything..." But he was already walking away, moving on autopilot through the service bay. One of the junior mechanics, Danny, looked up from a Maserati he was detailing. "Hey, Ryan, can you help me with something real quick? This key fob..." "Sorry, Danny, I don't work here anymore." The words hung in the air, strange and surreal. 2 hours ago, he'd woken up as a father with a job and a plan. Now he was unemployed, nearly broke, with a sick child waiting in the car. He was halfway across the service bay when he heard it. A sound so out of place in the pristine luxury showroom that his brain almost dismissed it as impossible. Glass shattering, not accidentally, violently, and then screaming. Sam. Ryan's body reacted before his mind caught up. Years of training, buried but never forgotten, surged back like muscle memory. He spun toward the sound, every sense suddenly sharp, that old, familiar rush of adrenaline hitting his system like ice water. The showroom doors, reinforced glass and steel, exploded inward. 4 men burst through the opening, moving with the kind of coordinated precision that separated amateurs from professionals. Black tactical gear, balaclavas. 3 carried pistols, Glock 19s, Ryan's brain automatically cataloged. The 4th had a Mossberg 590 shotgun. "Everybody down, now! Down on the ground!" The showroom erupted in chaos. Customers screamed. Sales staff dropped behind desks. The receptionist, Sarah, a sweet college girl who always asked about Theo, dove under her station, her hands shaking. But the attackers weren't interested in the customers. They were moving directly toward Alyssa Grant. Ryan watched from the service bay doorway, partially concealed behind a pillar. His contractor's instinct, the one that had kept him alive through 14 deployments, was already processing the situation at lightning speed. 4 attackers. Military training evident in their movement patterns. Not random criminals, this was planned. The way they'd entered, the way they moved in a diamond formation, the way 3 provided cover while 1 advanced. These were professionals, possibly former military themselves, and they were converging on the woman who'd just fired him. Alyssa stood in the center of the showroom, frozen in that awful moment of realization that comes when your brain finally accepts that, yes, this is really happening. Her clipboard clattered to the marble floor. "Ms. Grant!" The lead attacker, voice distorted by his mask, but younger than the others, maybe late 20s, closed the distance fast. "Don't move, don't scream, cooperate, and nobody gets hurt. What do you want?" Alyssa's voice shook, but she held her ground. Ryan had to give her credit. She wasn't running. "Money? There's not money." The lead attacker grabbed her arm, wrenching it behind her back in a practiced motion. "The drive, the AI prototype. We know you're carrying it. Give it to us, now." AI prototype? Ryan's mind raced. He knew Anderson Prestige Motors dealt exclusively in luxury vehicles. What the hell did they have to do with AI technology? "I don't..." Alyssa gasped as the attacker twisted her arm higher. I don't know what you're... Wrong answer. Another attacker, this one built like a linebacker, easily 6'4" and 250 pounds, drew a combat knife, 8 inches of blackened steel. He pressed it against Alyssa's ribs, just hard enough that a red stain began spreading across her white shirt. The prototype drive. You brought it here this morning. Your calendar said Anderson Motors, tech demonstration 9 a.m. That means you have it. Last chance. Ryan's hands clenched into fists. He should walk away. He should go back to his car, drive Theo home, let this situation resolve itself. This woman had just destroyed his livelihood. She'd shown him no mercy, no compassion. She deserves whatever happens next, a dark voice whispered in his mind. But then he saw Sarah, the receptionist, still hiding under her desk, tears streaming down her face, probably 19 years old, working this job to pay for college, terrified out of her mind. He saw Marcus, pressed against the wall by one of the gunmen, trying to shield 2 junior mechanics behind him. He saw innocent people about to be caught in whatever violence was coming, and he thought of Theo, asleep in the car. What would he tell his son? That he'd walked away? That when people needed help, he'd chosen revenge over decency? Ryan had been a lot of things in his life. He'd made mistakes. He'd carried out orders he still saw in nightmares. But he'd never been a coward, and he wasn't about to start now. I'm texting my office, Alyssa was saying, her voice tight with pain. They can bring the drive. Just don't hurt anyone, please. Too late for please. The lead attacker nodded to the one with the shotgun. Clear the building. Anyone who resists, put them down. The shotgun wielder pumped his weapon, a sound that never failed to inspire terror in civilian populations, and started moving toward the service bay, toward Ryan. Their eyes met across 20 feet of showroom floor. Ryan stood in the doorway, completely exposed, wearing grease-stained jeans and a faded Army Rangers t-shirt that he really should have thrown away years ago. The gunman's eyes narrowed. You, get on the ground. Now. Ryan didn't move. I said get on the... Ryan moved, not away from the gunman, toward him. 13 years of close-quarters combat training drilled into his muscle memory until it became instinct, took over. The gunman's mistake was bringing the shotgun up too early, trying to aim before establishing distance. Ryan closed the gap in 2 running steps, his left hand shooting out to grab the barrel and force it up and away while his right drove forward in a palm strike to the gunman's jaw. The shotgun discharged, a deafening boom in the enclosed space, blowing out a skylight 30 feet above. Glass rained down like deadly snow. Ryan twisted the shotgun barrel, using it as a lever to spin the gunman around, then drove his knee into the man's kidney. Hard. The kind of strike designed to shut down nerve clusters. The gunman grunted and dropped, the shotgun clattering away across the marble. 3 seconds. 1 down. Gun! He's got a gun! One of the other attackers was already moving, bringing his pistol around. Ryan dove behind a Bentley Continental as 3 shots cracked out, precision grouping, center mass where he'd been standing. These weren't random thugs. They shot like soldiers. Who the hell is that? The lead attacker snarled, still holding Alyssa. Does it matter? Light him up. More gunfire. The Bentley's windows exploded. Ryan rolled behind the vehicle, using the engine block as cover, the only part of a car that could reliably stop bullets. His mind was racing, calculating angles and probabilities. 3 armed hostiles remaining, 1 holding Alyssa with a knife, 2 trying to flank him. Approximately 20 civilians in the building, all in danger. He needed to end this fast. The junior mechanic, Danny, was crouched behind a desk 15 feet away, his eyes wide with terror but locked on Ryan. Ryan caught his attention, pointed to the tool chest against the wall. Professional-grade metal on wheels. Danny understood. Kid was smarter than he looked. When the next gunman came around the Bentley's rear end, expecting to find Ryan cowering, he instead found Ryan shoving a 600-pound tool chest directly into his path. The gunman fired twice, wild shots that went high before the chest slammed into his legs. He went down hard, head cracking against the marble. 2 down. But the third gunman, the big one with the knife, was using Alyssa as a human shield, backing toward the shattered entrance. Stay back, he shouted at Ryan. I'll cut her throat. I swear to God. Ryan slowly stood, hands visible, palms out. The universal gesture of non-aggression. Easy. Nobody needs to get hurt here. Little late for that. The lead attacker was at the entrance now, still covering Ryan with his pistol while his partner dragged Alyssa backward. But you know what? You just made this personal. We'll be back. And next time, we'll burn this whole place down. They were leaving. Ryan could let them go. Alyssa would probably survive. They needed her alive to get the drive. The civilians would be safe. The police were surely already on their way. Someone must have hit a silent alarm. But then Alyssa's eyes met his, those same cold gray eyes that had fired him an hour ago. Except now they weren't cold. They were terrified, human, pleading, and damn it, Ryan thought. Damn it all to hell. He moved, not toward them. That would get Alyssa killed. Instead, he grabbed a tire iron from Danny's workbench and hurled it like a tomahawk. It spun end over end, covering the 20-foot distance in less than a second, and slammed into the lead attacker's gun hand. The pistol clattered away. The man screamed. His partner reflexively turned toward the sound, and Alyssa drove her elbow back into his solar plexus. Not particularly hard, not trained, but desperate and unexpected. It was enough. The knife drew a thin line across her side as the big man's grip loosened. Alyssa dropped and rolled away, instinct overriding panic. Ryan was already running. The lead attacker was scrambling for his dropped pistol. Ryan got there first, kicking it away, then grabbed the man by his tactical vest and threw him, not pushed, threw, into the doorframe. The man's head bounced off steel with a hollow thunk, and he collapsed. The big one with the knife was still up, still dangerous, rage replacing professionalism in his eyes. He charged Ryan with the knife, leading, a wild overhand strike that would have been devastating if it connected. Ryan sidestepped, caught the man's wrist, and used his momentum against him, a basic judo throw he'd learned in his first week of Army combatives training. The big man flipped and landed flat on his back, the wind rushing out of him in a painful wheeze. Ryan drove his knee into the man's chest and twisted the knife free from nerveless fingers. 4 attackers. All down. 30 seconds, start to finish. The showroom was silent except for the distant wail of approaching sirens and the quiet sobbing of shocked civilians. Ryan stood, breathing hard, holding a bloody combat knife he didn't remember picking up. His hands were shaking, adrenaline dump, he recognized clinically. His knuckles were split. His ribs ached where one of the attackers had gotten in a body shot he'd barely noticed in the moment. And Alyssa Grant was staring at him. She'd pulled herself up to sit against the wall, one hand pressed against the bleeding cut on her side. Superficial. Ryan's trained eye assessed automatically. Painful, but not life-threatening. Her perfect hair had come loose from its ponytail. Her expensive suit was ruined. But she was alive. "You," she started, her voice hoarse. Who are you?" Ryan dropped the knife, let it clatter against the marble. "Nobody," he said quietly. "Just someone you fired this morning." Recognition flickered across her face. Horror followed. "Mr. Mercer?" "Ryan's fine." He was already turning away, moving toward the entrance. The police would be here any second. They'd have questions. They'd want statements. They'd probably think he was one of the attackers at first, just another man covered in blood in the middle of a crime scene. And Theo was still in the car, still sick, still needing his father. "Wait!" Alyssa tried to stand, winced, settled back down. "Wait, you can't just... You saved my life. You saved everyone here." "Yeah, well..." Ryan paused at the shattered entrance, glass crunching under his boots. "I'm sure your security footage caught everything. Tell the cops I'll be at home if they need a statement. Marcus has my address." "Mr. Mercer, Ryan, For the first time since he'd met her, Alyssa Grant seemed at a loss for words. "I'm sorry. What I did this morning, I was wrong. I should have..." "You should have," Ryan agreed. "But you didn't. And that's fine. That's your decision. He gestured at the destroyed showroom, the unconscious attackers, the terrified staff slowly emerging from hiding. "This doesn't change anything. I still don't work here. You still fired me for being 21 minutes late to take care of my sick kid." He walked out into the morning sunlight. Police cruisers were screaming into the parking lot, 6 of them, officers already jumping out with weapons drawn. "Freeze!" Hands where we can see them! Ryan slowly raised his hands, laced his fingers behind his head, and dropped to his knees, the practiced motion of someone who knew exactly how not to get shot by responding officers. Ryan Mercer, he called out calmly. Former Army, I'm one of the victims. The attackers are all inside, unconscious. Face down now! He complied, feeling the cold pavement against his cheek, feeling zip ties tighten around his wrists. Standard procedure. He didn't fight it. Through it all, he kept thinking about Theo, still sleeping in the car, still sick, still depending on a father who'd just lost his job and probably earned himself a lengthy police interview that would eat up the rest of the day. Some hero, Ryan thought bitterly, as an officer checked him for weapons. Can't even keep a simple delivery job. But as they hauled him to his feet and started walking him toward a cruiser, for processing, they said, not arrest. Ryan looked back at the showroom one last time. Alyssa Grant stood in the shattered entrance, paramedics trying to guide her to an ambulance. But she wasn't looking at them. She was looking at him. Their eyes met across the parking lot. She mouthed 2 words. Thank you. Ryan nodded once. Then he was in the back of a police cruiser and Anderson Prestige Motors was disappearing behind him. And the strangest day of his life was only just beginning. The police station smelled like burned coffee and institutional cleaning products. Ryan sat in interview room 3, windowless, fluorescent lit, with a metal table bolted to the floor and 2 chairs that had seen better decades. His zip ties had been replaced with handcuffs, standard procedure, they said, though the detective who'd processed him had been surprisingly gentle about it. Just a formality, Mr. Mercer. You understand. Ryan understood. He'd been through enough military debriefings to know the dance. He sat quietly, ignoring the ache in his ribs and the dried blood on his knuckles, and thought about Theo. The officer who'd driven him here had at least let him make a phone call. Mrs. Chen, their elderly neighbor, bless her heart, had come down to the parking lot to get Theo from the car. She'd take care of him, give him his medicine, put him to bed. Don't worry about your boy, she'd said in her accented English, patting Ryan's handcuffed wrists like he was the child. I raised 4 sons. I know fevers. He'd be fine. The door opened. 2 detectives entered, one older, late 50s, with the tired eyes of a man who'd seen every variation of human stupidity. His partner was younger, maybe 30, with the eager energy of someone still trying to prove themselves. Their badges read Detective Morse and Detective Chen, respectively. Mr. Mercer. Morse took the seat across from Ryan while Chen leaned against the wall, tablet in hand. Hell of a morning you've had. You could say that. Let's start from the beginning. You were employed at Anderson Prestige Motors? Was. Past tense, got fired at 8:51 this morning. Ryan kept his voice even, factual. 21 minutes late. CEO didn't accept my explanation about my son being sick. Morse and Chen exchanged a glance. Chen made a note on his tablet. So you had, what, bad feelings toward Ms. Grant? Ryan saw where this was going. If you're asking if I orchestrated an armed robbery to get revenge on the woman who fired me, Detective, the answer is no. Check my bank account. I have $247 to my name, not exactly hired mercenary money. 4 armed men storm a luxury car dealership, Morse continued, watching Ryan's face carefully. Professional tactical gear. Military-grade coordination. They specifically target the CEO. And the only person who successfully fights them off happens to be a recently terminated employee with special operations background. You've done your homework. Fort Benning, Ranger School, multiple deployments in Afghanistan and Syria with JSOC. Morse read from a file Ryan couldn't see. Decorated combat record. Honorable discharge 6 years ago. Then civilian life, marriage, divorce, single-parent working delivery jobs. He looked up. That's a pretty steep fall, Mr. Mercer. Ryan's jaw tightened. Is there a question in there? Why'd you leave the military? That's not relevant to, humor me. The room felt smaller suddenly. Ryan stared at the scarred metal table, seeing faces he tried not to remember. I was done. 14 deployments, Detective. I'd seen enough, done enough. I wanted to be there for my son while he still recognized me. Noble. Morse didn't sound convinced. And today? Why not just walk away? You didn't work there anymore. Ms. Grant had just humiliated you. Why risk your life for her? Because there were 20 other people in that building. Ryan met the detective's eyes. And because it was the right thing to do. You can believe that or not. Doesn't change what happened. Chen spoke up for the first time. We've reviewed the security footage. All of it. The firing, the attack. Your response time was impressive. 4 trained attackers neutralized in under 30 seconds. They weren't as trained as they thought. The one with the knife? Former Marine, according to his fingerprints. 2 tours in Iraq. Dishonorable discharge for assault. Chen swiped his tablet. The leader? Ex-British SAS, kicked out for unauthorized operations. These weren't amateurs, Mr. Mercer. Then they should have known better than to bunch up in a confined space. Morse leaned back in his chair, studying Ryan. Ms. Grant is very insistent that you saved her life. She's actually in the lobby right now, demanding to speak with you. That surprised Ryan. She should be in a hospital. She was, for about 40 minutes. Then she checked herself out and came straight here. Morse shook his head. Persistent woman. Says she won't leave until she talks to you. Tell her she's wasting her time. Why's that? Because I don't want her apology, her gratitude, or whatever else she thinks she owes me. Ryan shifted in his seat, the handcuffs clinking. I did what anyone should have done. Now can I go home to my son? The detectives exchanged another look, longer this time, some unspoken communication passing between them. Morse pulled out his phone, typed something, then set it face down on the table. Here's the situation, Mr. Mercer. Those 4 men you took down, they're not talking. Lawyered up immediately, but we ran their equipment, the tactical gear, the weapons, the communication setup. It's high-end. Very high-end. The kind of gear you need serious money and serious connections to acquire. So someone hired them. Someone with resources, an interest in whatever AI technology Ms. Grant was carrying. Morse tapped the table. We need to know what you know. Did they say anything? Mention any names? Give any indication who sent them? Ryan replayed the attack in his mind, sorting through the chaos for useful details. The leader said the drive, an AI prototype. He knew Ms. Grant's schedule, mentioned a tech demonstration at 9 a.m. That means inside information. We're working that angle, her staff, her calendar access, anyone who knew about the prototype. Chen made more notes. What about after, when they were leaving? The big one said they'd be back, that they'd burn the place down. Ryan paused. He didn't sound like he was bluffing, Detective. These guys wanted something specific. They failed today. People like that don't give up after one try. Morse's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, then stood. Wait here. Not like I'm going anywhere, Ryan said, raising his cuffed hand slightly. After Morse left, Chen moved closer, his expression more sympathetic than his partner's. For what it's worth, Mr. Mercer, I believe you. What you did today was heroic. Stupid, maybe, but heroic. Just trained. Training can be overcome by fear. You chose to move forward anyway. Chen pulled out a business card, set it on the table. My brother served. Army, like you. He came back different. Couldn't hold a job. Marriage fell apart. Ended up homeless for 2 years before we could get him help. Ryan said nothing. I'm just saying, I understand that transition from military to civilian isn't easy. And what happened today, the adrenaline, the combat, falling back into that role, it can mess with your head. If you need resources, veteran support services, I'm fine. Are you? The question hung in the air. Ryan wanted to say yes, wanted to believe it, but the truth was more complicated. The truth was that for 30 seconds in that showroom, he'd felt more alive than he had in 6 years. The clarity, the purpose, the absolute certainty of action, and that scared him more than any armed attacker ever could. The door opened again. Morse returned, and behind him, against all protocol and common sense, was Alyssa Grant. She looked worse than she had at the scene. The paramedics had bandaged her side, and she'd changed into fresh clothes, jeans and a Georgetown sweatshirt that seemed wildly out of character for the Ice Queen CEO he'd met this morning. Her hair was down, loose around her shoulders. She had a butterfly bandage on her forehead he hadn't noticed before. Ms. Grant, Morse began, this is highly irregular. I don't care about regular. Alyssa's voice was firm, but not cold. Mr. Mercer saved my life and probably 15 others. The least I can do is speak to him face to face. Ma'am, this is an active investigation. Then investigate. I'll wait. She pulled out the chair next to Morse and sat, wincing slightly from the knife wound. Until then, I'm talking to Ryan. Morse looked at Chen. Chen shrugged. They both stepped out, though Ryan could see them through the small window in the door, watching. Silence filled the interview room. Alyssa stared at Ryan. Ryan stared at the table. You're angry, she finally said. I'm tired. You should be in a hospital, too. Your knuckles have been worse. Ryan looked up. Why are you here, Ms. Grant? Alyssa, please. She folded her hands on the table, and Ryan noticed they were shaking slightly. I'm here because I owe you an apology, a real one. What I did this morning was unconscionable. You fired me for being late. That's your right as CEO. It was cruel and short-sighted, and exactly the kind of soulless corporate bullshit I swore I'd never become. She took a shaky breath. My father built Anderson Motors from nothing. He knew every employee by name. He went to their kids' baseball games. When his lead mechanic's wife got cancer, my dad paid for the treatments personally. Ryan didn't respond, but he listened. Then he died. Suddenly. Heart attack at 59. And I inherited everything at 24 years old. A company, a legacy, expectations I had no idea how to meet. Alyssa's voice cracked slightly. I was so desperate to prove I deserved it, to show I was tough enough, smart enough. I turned into exactly what I hated. Profit over people, efficiency over empathy. That why you fired 3 other people this week? She nodded, looking ashamed. Jerry Vaughn, late twice because his mother has Alzheimer's and her caretaker was sick. Michelle Torres, made a bookkeeping error, $50, Ryan, $50, because she was going through a divorce. And Sam Chen took an unauthorized break because his daughter called from school, scared about a lockdown drill. Jesus, I know. Alyssa met his eyes. I know. And then this morning you came in 21 minutes late because your 7-year-old son had a fever, and I fired you. Without listening, without caring, because I'd convinced myself that caring made you weak. And now? Now I watched you risk your life for a building full of people who meant nothing to you, for a woman who just destroyed your livelihood. You could have walked away. God knows you had every right to. But you didn't. She leaned forward. So I'm here to say I was wrong, completely, catastrophically wrong, and to ask what I can do to make it right. Ryan studied her, looking for the manipulation, the corporate calculation, but all he saw was genuine regret. And something else, fear, maybe, vulnerability. The mask had cracked. You can let me go home to my son, he said quietly. That's all I want. I already gave them my statement. They're processing your release now, but Ryan, we're done here, Ms. Grant. Alyssa. And no, we're not. She pulled something from her pocket, a business card, expensive stock with embossed lettering. Those men today? They mentioned an AI prototype. They knew my schedule. They had professional equipment and military training. I told the detectives. I'm not talking about the police. Alyssa set the card in front of him. Anderson Motors is just my family business. My real company, the one I built myself, is called Nexus Core. We develop AI systems for autonomous vehicles. The prototype they wanted is worth $40 million and represents 3 years of research. Ryan glanced at the card. It listed her as CEO and founder, with an address in Silicon Valley. That attack today was just the first attempt, Alyssa continued. Whoever hired those men knows what I'm carrying and knows it's valuable. They'll try again, and next time, they'll be better prepared. Hire professional security. I have professional security. They're excellent at preventing corporate espionage and handling standard threats. But today showed me something. She leaned closer. I need someone who understands real violence. Someone who can think like the people coming after me. Someone who's been in actual combat situations. Ryan saw where this was going. No. You haven't heard my offer. I don't need to. I'm not a bodyguard. I'm not a mercenary. I'm a single dad trying to keep a roof over my son's head. He stood, the handcuffs forcing him to move awkwardly. Find someone else to play soldier for you. 60,000. Ryan stopped. $60,000. That's my opening offer. Plus full benefits, health insurance, dental, vision, a company car, and flexible hours so you can be there for Theo. Alyssa stood too. I did my research while you were being questioned. You've been working 3 different delivery jobs trying to make ends meet. You're 2 months behind on rent. Theo's school fees are overdue. You had no right. I had every right. You saved my life, Ryan. That means I owe you a debt, and I pay my debts. She moved closer, her voice dropping. I'm not asking you to kill anyone. I'm asking you to help me stay alive long enough to complete this project. 3 months. That's all. 12 weeks of protection detail while I finalize the AI system and secure it with the Department of Defense. After that, it's out of my hands and the threat level drops to 0. 60,000. Ryan's voice was flat. For 3 months. And if you're worried about Theo, I'll arrange childcare. The best in the city. Or he can come to work with you. I'll set up a private space with everything he needs. It was a ridiculous amount of money for what she was describing, which meant she was either desperate or lying about the actual danger level. Probably both. Why me? Ryan asked. There are thousands of former soldiers in this city alone. Private security firms that specialize in exactly what you're describing. Because they didn't save me today. You did. Alyssa's gray eyes held his. Because when those men had a knife to my ribs when I thought I was going to die, you came through that door anyway. Not for money, not for glory, just because it was right. That's not training, Ryan. That's character. The door opened. Morse stuck his head in. Mr. Mercer, you're free to go. We'll need you to come back tomorrow to sign your official statement, but for now, he noticed Alyssa. Ms. Grant, I asked you to wait outside. We're done. Alyssa stepped back. Think about it, Ryan. Take tonight. Be with your son. The offer stands until tomorrow at noon. I don't need to think about it. Take the night anyway. She headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Ryan? I already processed your final paycheck. It's being overnighted to your address. You'll have it tomorrow morning. Then she was gone, leaving only the scent of expensive perfume and the business card on the table. Morse came forward with a handcuff key. For what it's worth, Mr. Mercer, she seems sincere, and that's a generous offer. Too generous, Ryan said as the cuffs came off. He rubbed his wrists, feeling the circulation return. Which means the danger is worse than she's letting on. Probably. Morse handed him a property envelope, his phone, wallet, keys. But 60,000 could change your life. Could also end it. Ryan signed the release forms, collected his belongings, and walked out of the police station into late afternoon sunlight. The world felt surreal, too bright, too normal. People walked past on the sidewalk, absorbed in their phones, their lives, completely unaware that Ryan's entire existence had been upended in the span of 6 hours. His phone had 37 missed calls, most from numbers he didn't recognize, probably reporters who'd gotten his contact information somehow. 3 from Mrs. Chen, 1 from Marcus. He called Mrs. Chen first. Ryan! Oh, thank goodness. Your boy, he asking for you. The medicine working. Fever is down. Relief flooded through him. Thank you, Mrs. Chen. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Take your time. We watching cartoons. He is good boy, your Theo. The best, Ryan agreed. He called a ride share. His car was still at Anderson Motors, probably impounded as evidence. $23 for the trip home, which left his account at $224,083. At least until tomorrow, when his final paycheck arrived. The driver was a college kid who mercifully didn't try to make conversation. Ryan sat in the back seat and stared out the window, watching the city slide past. Thinking about Alyssa's offer, $60,000, 3 months. It was everything he needed, everything Theo needed, insurance for when he inevitably got sick again, enough money to find a better apartment in a better school district, maybe even some savings for emergencies, for college, for the future. All he had to do was paint a target on his back and wait for professional killers to take another shot. Mrs. Chen's apartment was on the first floor of their building, overstuffed with furniture and knickknacks and the warm smell of something cooking. Theo was curled up on her couch, wrapped in a blanket, eyes glued to a cartoon Ryan didn't recognize. Dad! His son's face lit up, the most beautiful thing Ryan had ever seen. Mrs. Chen said you were helping the police. Something like that, buddy. Ryan scooped Theo up, blanket and all, and held him close. The boy's forehead was still warm, but noticeably cooler than this morning. How are you feeling? Better? Mrs. Chen made me soup. It had weird noodles, but it was good. Pho, Mrs. Chen said, smiling. Vietnamese soup. Very healing. Thank you, Ryan said, and meant it more than he could express. I don't know what we'd do without you. Family takes care of family. She patted his arm. You good man, Ryan. Good father. Whatever trouble today, it will pass. If only, Ryan thought. He carried Theo upstairs to their apartment. One bedroom, cramped kitchen, living room that doubled as Ryan's bedroom with a pull-out couch. The building was old and the neighbors could be loud, but it was clean and safe. And theirs. Dad? Theo asked as Ryan tucked him into bed. Why were you at the police station? Did something bad happen? Ryan considered lying. Considered protecting his son from the truth. But Theo was smart, and eventually he'd hear something, and Ryan had always promised to be honest with him. Something happened at my work today. Some bad people tried to hurt someone, and I stopped them. Theo's eyes went wide. Like a superhero? Not exactly. More like, someone who knew what to do and did it. Did you get hurt? Ryan looked at his bruised knuckles, the dried blood he'd washed off in the police station bathroom, but that had left stains. A little. Nothing serious. Was it scary? Yeah, buddy. It was scary. Theo reached out and took Ryan's hand, his small fingers wrapping around his father's. You're really brave, Dad. Ryan's throat tightened. I'm just doing my best, Theo. That's what being brave is, right? Mrs. Chen says being brave is being scared but doing the thing anyway. Mrs. Chen is a wise woman. Dad? Theo's voice got quieter. Are we going to be okay? I heard you on the phone last week talking about money. Children heard everything, noticed everything, no matter how hard you tried to protect them. We're going to be fine, Ryan said, and hoped it was true. I promise. Now get some sleep. Doctor said rest is the best medicine. Better than Mrs. Chen's weird noodles? Nothing's better than Mrs. Chen's weird noodles. Theo giggled, tired but genuine, and closed his eyes. Within minutes, he was asleep, his breathing slow and steady. Ryan sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, watching his son sleep, thinking about the attack, about Alyssa Grant's offer, about the choice in front of him. He could say no, find another delivery job, another way to make ends meet, keep his head down, keep Theo safe, keep living the quiet life he'd built. But 3 months of work for $60,000? That was life-changing money. That was stability. That was everything he'd been fighting for. And the alternative was what? More months of barely scraping by? More nights of choosing between buying groceries and paying the electric bill? More moments of watching Theo pretend he didn't notice when other kids had new clothes and birthday parties and field trips Ryan couldn't afford. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know you're thinking about my offer. I know it seems too good to be true. But Ryan, I'm not exaggerating the danger. They'll come after me again, and next time there might not be a trained soldier in the building to stop them. Your choice. But at least let it be an informed one. Call me if you want the full story. Alyssa. Below the message was a phone number. Ryan stared at it for a long time. Then he stepped out onto the apartment's small balcony, barely big enough for a chair and a potted plant that kept dying no matter what he did. The night air was cool. The city sprawled below, millions of lights representing millions of lives, each one a story he'd never know. He pulled out Alyssa's business card, turned it over in his hands. Nexus Core. Autonomous Vehicle AI Systems. $40 million prototype. Professional mercenaries with military training. This wasn't a simple bodyguard job. This was something bigger, more dangerous. The kind of situation that could go sideways in a dozen different ways. But $60,000. He looked back through the sliding glass door at Theo, still sleeping peacefully. Ryan pulled out his phone and dialed the number. She answered on the first ring. I wasn't sure you'd call. I haven't agreed to anything, Ryan said. But you said I should have the full story, so talk. Not over the phone. Can you meet me? There's a diner 2 blocks from your apartment. Tony's, I think. All-night breakfast. I'm already here. You know where I live? I told you, I did my research. And before you get paranoid, I came alone. No security detail, no recording devices, just a conversation between two people who had a really complicated day. Ryan should have said no, should have hung up, gone inside, forgotten the whole thing. Instead, he said, "Give me 10 minutes." He checked on Theo one more time, left a note on the kitchen counter just in case, and headed downstairs. Mrs. Chen's light was still on. The woman never slept, he swore, and he knocked softly. She opened the door immediately. "Going out? Just for a little while. Could you—" "I watch Theo. Of course." She shooed him toward the stairs. "Go. Do what you must do." Tony's Diner was exactly the kind of place Ryan would expect in this neighborhood. Vinyl booths with duct-taped repairs, laminated menus that had been the same since 1987, coffee that could strip paint. And sitting in a back corner booth, looking wildly out of place in her Georgetown sweatshirt and designer jeans, was Alyssa Grant. She'd ordered him coffee. Black, no sugar. "Lucky guess," she said as he slid into the booth across from her. "So talk," Ryan said. "Full story. Why are people willing to kill you for a computer chip?" "It's not a chip, it's a complete AI system. Autonomous driving, yes, but also predictive algorithms that can process real-time traffic data, weather patterns, pedestrian behavior, everything a vehicle needs to operate safer than any human driver." She wrapped her hands around her coffee mug. "My father started the research. I finished it. Worth $40 million. Conservative estimate. Military applications alone could be worth 10 times that, which is why the Department of Defense wants exclusive rights, and why people like Silas Varon want to steal it." The name meant nothing to Ryan. "Who?" Alyssa's expression darkened. "Tech crime lord. Started as a hacker, evolved into something much worse. Stolen intellectual property, corporate espionage, blackmail. If it's illegal and involves technology, Varon has his fingers in it. He's based somewhere in Eastern Europe, untouchable by law enforcement. And you have something he wants. He's tried to buy Nexus Core 3 times, offered more money than you can imagine. Each time I refused. So now he's escalating. The attack today, those were his men. I'm certain of it." Ryan leaned back. "How certain?" "The lead attacker? Ex-SAS named Connor Blake. He worked for a private military contractor that has documented ties to Varon's organization." She pulled up something on her phone, showed Ryan a police report. "Blake was arrested in Prague 2 years ago for industrial espionage. The job was stealing prototype batteries from an electric vehicle company. Charges were dropped due to insufficient evidence." Meaning Varon paid someone off. Meaning Varon owns someone. Possibly multiple someones in law enforcement across 3 continents. Alyssa set her phone down. "The other 3 attackers have similar backgrounds. All mercenaries. All with connections to jobs that benefited Varon. So why not give the prototype to the Department of Defense now? Get it out of your hands. The demonstration is in 3 months. The DoD won't take partial work. They need the complete system, fully tested and certified. Until then, I'm responsible for it." She met his eyes. "And until then, I'm a target." Ryan sipped his coffee, thinking. "Your current security team doesn't know about your real work. They think I'm just a car dealer who inherited family money, which is exactly what I want the world to think. Nexus Core operates under multiple shell companies, NDAs, classified partnerships. Even today, when those men mentioned the AI prototype, my own staff had no idea what they were talking about. Operational security. If that's what you military types call it, then yes. It's good," Ryan admitted. "But it only works until it doesn't. Those men knew your schedule down to the hour. That's not lucky guessing." "I know. Which means I have a leak somewhere. Someone in my company or my security team or maybe even the DoD itself." She leaned forward. "That's why I need someone outside the system, someone I can trust." "You don't know me. You have no reason to trust me." "I know you risked your life for people you didn't know. I know you fought off 4 professional killers to save strangers. I know you did all that hours after I humiliated you." Alyssa's voice softened. "That tells me more than any background check ever could. Or it tells you I'm an idiot who can't walk away from trouble." "Maybe. But You're an idiot I need. Ryan almost smiled despite himself. You're not great at sales pitches. I'm better at product development than people management, something I'm trying to work on. She pulled out a folder, thin, maybe 10 pages. This is a contract, standard security consultant agreement. $60,000 for 3 months, paid weekly. Health benefits start immediately. You'd technically be an independent contractor, which gives you flexibility with hours. What exactly would I be doing? 3 things. First, close protection whenever I'm transporting the prototype or meeting with DoD officials. Second, threat assessment. Review my security protocols and find the leak. Third, training my existing team to handle situations like today. That's not a 3-month job. That's a career. Then think of it as a 3-month audition. If it works out, if we're both happy, we can discuss something permanent. She slid the folder across the table. Read it. Think about it. But Ryan, I need an answer by tomorrow noon, because Varen won't wait, and neither can I. Ryan opened the folder. The contract looked legitimate. Clean language, fair terms, nothing hidden in the fine print that he could see. $60,000. Health insurance, flexible schedule. Everything he needed. Everything he'd been fighting for. All he had to do was step back into the life he'd left behind. The violence, the danger, the certainty that every day might be his last. If I say yes, Ryan said slowly, I need guarantees about Theo, about keeping him safe and separate from this. Absolutely. He never comes near anything dangerous. I'll personally ensure that. And if this goes south, if Varen sends more people and they're better than today, then you'll do what you did today. Protect people who need protecting. Stop people who need stopping. Alyssa's voice was steady. I'm not going to lie to you, Ryan. This is dangerous. But you're the best chance I have, and I think this might be the best chance you've had in a long time, too. She wasn't wrong. Ryan hated that she wasn't wrong. He closed the folder. I'll read this tonight, have an answer by morning. Fair enough? They sat in silence for a moment, 2 people who 12 hours ago had been on opposite sides of a very different conversation. Can I ask you something? Alyssa said. Today, when you came through that door, you had to know you might die. Why did you really do it? Ryan thought about Theo, about Mrs. Chen's kindness, about Marcus trying to defend him to a boss who wouldn't listen, about all the small moments of human decency he'd witnessed in 6 years of trying to build a normal life. Because someone has to, he said finally. Because if people like me, people who know how to fight, only use that skill for ourselves, then what's the point? We just become another kind of monster. Alyssa nodded slowly. My father used to say something similar, that power without responsibility is just tyranny in waiting. Smart man. He was. Her voice caught slightly. I wish he'd lived long enough to see what the company became, what I built from his dream. Maybe he can, Ryan said, if you live long enough to finish it. Is that a yes? That's a maybe. Check your phone at 8 a.m. tomorrow. He stood, dropped a $5 bill on the table for the coffee, and walked out into the night. Behind him, Alyssa Grant sat alone in a vinyl booth surrounded by the ghosts of better choices and the reality of dangerous ones. Ryan walked the 2 blocks home slowly, the folder tucked under his arm, his mind racing through scenarios and possibilities. The smart play was to say no. Find another job. Keep Theo safe. But Theo deserved better than safe. He deserved stable. He deserved a father who could afford to take him to the doctor without panicking about the cost, who could say yes to field trips and birthday parties and all the small things that made childhood bearable. And if Ryan was being completely honest with himself, a small part of him, a part he'd tried to bury for 6 years, had felt alive today. Purpose, direction, the absolute clarity of knowing exactly what needed to be done and having the skills to do it. Maybe Alyssa was right. Maybe this was a second chance for both of them. Or maybe it was just another way to get himself killed and leave Theo alone in the world. He climbed the stairs to his apartment, checked on his son, still sleeping peacefully, and sat at the kitchen table with the contract spread in front of him. $60,000. 3 months. One decision that would change everything. Outside, the city hummed with its usual chaos, completely unaware that somewhere in the shadows, Silas Veron was planning his next move. And tomorrow morning, Ryan Mercer would have to decide if he was ready to face it. Ryan didn't sleep that night. He sat at the kitchen table until 3 a.m., reading the contract 4 times, making notes in the margins, running scenarios in his head. Every calculation came back to the same conclusion. This was the smart move financially, and possibly the stupidest move he'd make in terms of survival. At 5:47 a.m., Theo shuffled out of the bedroom, dragging his blanket behind him. His fever had broken completely, leaving him rumpled and sleepy but healthy. "Dad, why are you still awake?" "Just thinking, buddy." Ryan pulled his son onto his lap, breathing in the kid smell of him, shampoo and sleep and innocence. "How do you feel?" "Hungry." Theo yawned. "Can we have pancakes?" They could barely afford groceries, but Ryan nodded anyway. "Pancakes it is." While the batter mixed and the griddle heated, Theo sat at the table coloring in a dinosaur book, humming tunelessly. Normal, safe, everything Ryan had fought to give him. "Dad?" Theo looked up, purple crayon in hand. "Are you going to get a new job?" "Maybe. Would that be okay? Will you still have time to pick me up from school?" And there it was, the real question, the one that mattered more than money or danger or pride. "Always," Ryan promised. "No matter what job I have, I'll always be there for you." "Okay." Theo went back to his coloring, satisfied with that simple assurance. At exactly 8 a.m., Ryan sent the text. "Ryan, I'm in. But we do this my way, my rules." And Theo stays completely separate from everything, non-negotiable. The response came within 30 seconds. "Alyssa, agreed. Come to Nexus Corps headquarters at 10 a.m. Address below. Bring Theo if you need to. I meant what I said about childcare." She'd included an address in a business district Ryan had only seen from the highway, glass towers and corporate campuses where people who wore suits to work played with technologies that would reshape the world. "Change of plans, buddy," Ryan said, plating the pancakes. "How'd you like to see where Dad's new job might be?" Theo's eyes lit up. "Can I?" "Yep, but you have to promise to be on your best behavior." "I promise." 2 hours later, Ryan pulled his battered Honda into a parking garage beneath a building that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. All curves and reflective glass, with a lobby that felt more like an art museum than an office. A young woman in a blazer met them at the reception desk. "Mr. Mercer, I'm Jennifer, Ms. Grant's executive assistant. She's expecting you." Jennifer's eyes dropped to Theo, and her professional smile warmed into something genuine. "And you must be Theo. Ms. Grant told me you might be coming. We've set up something special for you." "Special?" Theo looked up at Ryan, uncertain. "It's okay," Ryan said, though his instincts were already cataloging exits and potential threats. Old habits. Jennifer led them through security, retinal scanners, metal detectors, guards who were clearly ex-military from the way they carried themselves. This wasn't standard corporate security. This was fortress-level protection. The executive floor was quieter, more refined. Through glass-walled conference rooms, Ryan could see engineers hunched over laptops, whiteboards covered in equations he didn't understand. This was where the real work happened, far from the luxury car showroom that served as Alyssa's public face. "Ms. Grant is finishing a call," Jennifer said, stopping at a corner office. "But in the meantime, Theo, how would you like to see something cool?" She opened a door across the hall. Inside was a room that made Theo gasp. Gaming consoles, a wall of books, art supplies, even a ball pit in the corner. 2 other kids were already there, playing with blocks under the watchful eye of a woman who introduced herself as Miss Sarah, the on-site childcare coordinator. "This is for all the employees' kids," Jennifer explained. "We have STEM activities, tutoring help, even a video call system so kids can check in with their parents anytime." Theo looked at Ryan with pleading eyes. "Can I?" Ryan knelt down to his son's level. "Remember what I said about best behavior?" "I remember." "Then yes, but if you need me for anything." "Miss Sarah will call you immediately," the coordinator assured him, handing Ryan a pager. Old school, but reliable. No cell signal issues. Ryan watched Theo run toward the other kids, already asking about the video game they were playing. The transition from fever-sick to energetic child had taken less than 24 hours. The resilience of youth. Mr. Mercer? Jennifer gestured toward Alyssa's office. She's ready for you now. The office was surprisingly modest, no mahogany desk or leather furniture. Instead, it was functional and clean, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a view of the city and multiple monitors showing what looked like code and schematics. Alyssa stood by the window, phone pressed to her ear, and when she turned to acknowledge Ryan, he saw the tension in her shoulders that hadn't been there last night. I understand your concerns, Senator, but the timeline is fixed. The demonstration happens in 12 weeks or not at all. Yes. Yes, I'm aware of the security issues. That's being handled. Thank you. She ended the call and immediately seemed to deflate slightly. Ryan, thank you for coming. You look like you've had an interesting morning. Varen's organization leaked news about yesterday's attack to certain interested parties. Now everyone's nervous. The DoD, my investors, even the insurance company. She gestured to a chair. Sit, please. We have a lot to cover. Ryan sat, his eyes never stopping their automatic threat assessment. 2 exits. Windows, reinforced glass, probably bulletproof. Security camera in the corner. Good sight lines. You're doing it already, Alyssa observed. Doing what? Evaluating, planning, seeing threats everywhere. She sat across from him, and he noticed the dark circles under her eyes. She hadn't slept either. Is that what your life was like before? Every day, every moment, you learn to see the world as a series of potential attacks and defensive positions. It's exhausting. And yet you're volunteering to go back to it. For $60,000 in my son's future? Yeah. Ryan leaned forward. But if we're doing this, I need full transparency. Everything about the prototype, everything about Varen, every detail you've been holding back. Alyssa nodded and pulled up something on one of her monitors. The prototype is called Athena, Autonomous Transport Heuristic Engine for Navigational Advancement. Terrible acronym, I know, but the DoD insisted. The screen showed a black box about the size of a hardcover book, covered in ports and indicator lights. Looks like a fancy router, Ryan said. It's significantly more than that. Athena contains machine learning algorithms that can process millions of data points per second, traffic patterns, weather conditions, pedestrian behavior, even predictive modeling for potential accidents before they happen. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, bringing up demonstrations. A car equipped with Athena is statistically safer than any human driver. No distraction, no fatigue, no emotion. And the military applications? Supply convoys that can navigate war zones without risking human drivers. Autonomous medical evacuation vehicles. Even tactical deployments where human response time isn't fast enough. She paused. It could save thousands of lives, which is why people like Varen want to steal it and sell it to the highest bidder. Or use it themselves. Autonomous attack vehicles, drone swarms, all coordinated by AI. Ryan saw the implications immediately. That's a nightmare scenario. Exactly. Which is why the DoD is paying $40 million for exclusive rights, and why I've spent 3 years making sure no one else can replicate it. Alyssa closed the demonstration. The encryption alone would take a quantum computer decades to crack. Where is it now? Somewhere safe. The one from yesterday was a decoy, functional but without the core algorithms. She smiled grimly. I learned from my father never to transport the real thing without multiple layers of misdirection. So yesterday's attack was for nothing. They risked everything for a glorified paperweight. Alyssa's satisfaction was evident, but they don't know that yet. And when they find out, they'll be even more desperate. Ryan processed this. You used yourself as bait. I used myself as a diversion. There's a difference. Not much of one. And it almost got you killed. But it didn't, because you were there. She met his eyes. Which brings me to the real reason I need you, Ryan. Yesterday was just the opening move. Varen is planning something bigger. I can feel it. And when it comes, I need someone who can do more than just stand between me and a bullet. What exactly are you asking? Alyssa pulled up another file, this one labeled Confidential in red letters. 3 weeks from now, there's a closed demonstration for DoD officials. Top secret location, maximum security, the works. That's when I'll be transporting the real Athena. That's when Varon will make his real move. You're certain? As certain as I can be. He's been escalating for months. Cyber attacks on my servers, attempted bribery of my staff, even a suspicious car accident that totaled my vehicle last month. He's building towards something. And the demonstration is his last chance to steal Athena before it disappears into a government facility forever. Ryan leaned back, thinking through the tactical implications. 3 weeks. That's not much time to prepare. Which is why I need you starting today. I need you to evaluate my security, find the leak in my organization, and develop a protection protocol that can survive whatever Varen throws at us. She handed him a tablet. This contains everything: personnel files, security footage from yesterday, communications logs, financial records, full access, no restrictions. You're trusting me with classified information. I'm trusting you with my life. The information is secondary. Alyssa stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city. My father used to say that technology is only as good as the people who protect it. He meant it literally, that security systems matter. But I think he also meant it philosophically, that we have to trust someone eventually, or we're just prisoners of our own paranoia. Paranoia keeps you alive. So does faith. She turned back to him. I have faith in you, Ryan. Despite what happened yesterday morning, despite knowing you for less than a day, call it instinct or desperation or stupidity, but there it is. Ryan took the tablet. The weight of it felt significant, symbolic. If I find the leak and it's someone you care about, someone you trust, then you tell me anyway. No exceptions. Her voice was firm. I can't afford loyalty that compromises security. All right, then let's start with your inner circle. Who has access to your schedule? Jennifer, my executive assistant. Marcus Chen, my head of security, different from the Marcus at the dealership. Dr. Sarah Kwan, my lead engineer, and David Torres, my business partner and COO. She counted them on her fingers. 4 people, all vetted, all trusted. Anyone else? The DoD liaison, Colonel Richard Vance, but he's military intelligence with 30 years of service. I'd stake my life on his integrity. You are staking your life. That's the problem. Ryan opened the tablet and started scrolling through files. I need to interview each of them, today, if possible. And I need access to your digital security systems, firewalls, encryption, server logs. Done. I'll have Jennifer schedule the interviews. Alyssa moved back to her desk, her fingers already typing. What else? Physical security of the building. I saw the measures downstairs, but I need to evaluate protocols, response times, backup procedures, and I need to know where the real Athena is stored. That's complicated. Uncomplicated. Alyssa hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. Follow me. She led him out of the office, past Jennifer, who handed Ryan a visitor badge without comment, and to an elevator Ryan hadn't noticed before. Hidden behind a panel that required both a key card and a biometric scan to access. This building has 3 basement levels, Alyssa explained as the elevator descended. B1 is parking, B2 is server storage and IT infrastructure. B3 is something else entirely. The elevator opened onto a corridor that belonged in a military installation, not a corporate building. Armed guards, 2 of them, professional and alert, flanked a vault door that looked like it could survive a nuclear blast. Ms. Grant, one guard acknowledged, we weren't informed about visitors. This is Ryan Mercer, our new security consultant. He's cleared for level black access. The guards exchanged glances but didn't argue. Level black, apparently, was serious. Beyond the vault door was a laboratory, pristine white walls, climate-controlled, with workstations that held equipment Ryan couldn't begin to identify. And in the center, inside what looked like a transparent containment cube, sat Athena. Up close, it was more impressive than the photo suggested. The black casing had an almost organic quality, and the indicator lights pulsed in patterns that seemed almost alive. Jesus, Ryan breathed. That's really it. 3 years of work, $40 million of research, the future of autonomous transportation. Alyssa approached the containment cube, pressing her hand against the transparent surface. My father started this project before he died. I finished it for him, for his legacy. And now you're risking everything to protect it, because some things are worth the risk. She turned to him. You understand that, don't you? You risked your life yesterday for people you didn't even know. That's the same principle. just a different scale. Ryan walked around the containment cube, examining the security measures. Biometric locks, motion sensors, what looked like some kind of electromagnetic field generator. How many people have access to this room? 5. Me, Dr. Kwan, Marcus Chen, Colonel Vance for DoD oversight, and now you. Not your COO? David handles business operations. He's brilliant with finances and contracts, but he's not technical. He's never even seen Athena in person. That was interesting. A business partner kept at arm's length from the core product, either very good compartmentalization or a sign of trust issues. Tell me about David Torres, Ryan said. We went to Stanford together. He helped me start Nexus Core, brought in the initial investors, structured the company. He's been my partner for 8 years. Alyssa's voice carried genuine affection. I trust him completely. Everyone's trustworthy until they're not. I'll need to interview him first. Ryan, non-negotiable. You hired me to find the leak. That means everyone gets scrutinized. No exceptions. Alyssa nodded reluctantly. Fine, but go easy on him. David's been under enormous stress with the demonstration coming up. The investors are breathing down his neck. I'll be professional. Ryan took photos of the security setup with the tablet. But I need honest answers, not comfortable ones. They rode the elevator back up in silence. When the doors opened, Jennifer was waiting with a concerned expression. Ms. Grant, we have a situation. David is in your office and he's upset. About what? The police called him this morning. Apparently one of yesterday's attackers made bail and disappeared. They're concerned about retaliation. Ryan's instincts flared. Which attacker? Connor Blake, the leader. Jennifer checked her notes. He posted a $2 million bond at 6 a.m. and was gone by 7. Police put out a warrant, but he's probably already out of the country, Ryan finished, or planning his next move. They found David Torres in Alyssa's office, pacing like a caged animal. He was mid-30s, expensive suit, the kind of polished presentation that came from years of pitching to investors. But right now, that polish was cracking. $2 million bond, Alyssa. Do you understand what that means? Someone with serious resources wanted him out. Someone who's still coming after you. He stopped when he noticed Ryan. Who's this? David, this is Ryan Mercer. He's the guy from yesterday. The one who fought off the attackers. David looked Ryan up and down, clearly unimpressed by the jeans and faded t-shirt. No offense, but we need professional security. Ex-Secret Service, maybe Blackwater. Not a former Army Ranger who saved your business partner's life? Ryan kept his voice level. Yeah, I get it. I don't look the part. It's not about looks, it's about credentials. And David, Alyssa's voice cut through the tension, Ryan has my full confidence. And right now, he needs to ask you some questions. David's eyes narrowed. Questions about what? About your access to my schedule, your communications with outside parties, your financial records for the past 6 months. Ryan moved further into the office, positioning himself between David and the door. Subtle, but tactical. Standard security review, nothing personal. Nothing personal. You're investigating me? I'm investigating everyone, Ryan said calmly. That's the job. So you can cooperate now and we can do this the easy way, or you can make it difficult and we'll do it anyway. Your choice. David looked at Alyssa. You're seriously allowing this? I'm insisting on it. Her voice was firm. Someone leaked my schedule to those attackers. Someone told them about the demonstration, about the prototype. Until we find out who, everyone is suspect. Including me. David's voice went cold. After 8 years of partnership, after everything I've done to build this company, you suspect me. I suspect everyone, so does Ryan. That's how we stay alive. David stood there, jaw clenched, clearly weighing his options. Finally, he pulled out his phone and tablet, practically throwing them onto Alyssa's desk. Fine. Look at whatever you want. You won't find anything because there's nothing to find. I've been loyal to you and to Nexus Core since day one. Then the investigation will prove that, Ryan said, collecting the devices. Where were you yesterday morning between 8 and 10 a.m.? At home, working on investor reports for the quarterly review. Anyone verify that? I live alone, so no witnesses to my morning coffee and spreadsheets. David's sarcasm was thick. Should I have invited someone over specifically to provide an alibi? Were you on any calls, video conferences, anything with timestamps? I had a video call with our accounting firm at 8:30. Lasted about 40 minutes. You can check the call logs. Ryan made a note on the tablet. What about your communications with Silas Veron's organization? David went pale. I don't even know who that is. Tech crime lord. Eastern European operations. Specializes in intellectual property theft. Ryan watched David's face carefully. He's the one behind yesterday's attack. He's the one who posted Blake's bail. And he's the one who's going to try again. I've never heard of him. I swear to God, Alyssa, I've never had any contact with anyone like that. He seemed genuinely shaken, but Ryan had seen good liars before. What about unusual financial activity? Large deposits? Unexplained transfers? My finances are clean, every dollar accounted for. You'll see when you check. David looked at Alyssa. I can't believe this is happening. After everything, you should understand why it has to happen, Alyssa said quietly. If our positions were reversed, you'd do the same thing. David stared at her for a long moment, then grabbed his coat. I need some air. When you're done treating me like a criminal, I'll be downstairs. He left, the door closing hard behind him. That went well, Ryan observed. David's proud and hurt, but he'll come around. Alyssa sank into her chair. He's not the leak, Ryan. I'd bet everything on that. You already are betting everything. That's the problem. Ryan started scrolling through David's phone. Give me an hour with his devices. I'll know more then. While Ryan worked, Alyssa fielded calls and emails, the constant demands of running a company on top of dealing with security threats. Around noon, Jennifer brought in sandwiches that neither of them touched. His story checks out, Ryan finally said. Video call at 8:30, lasted 42 minutes. Accounting firm confirms. His financial records show normal activity, salary, expenses, nothing unusual. No large cash deposits, no offshore accounts I can find. So he's clear? For now, but I still want to interview the others. Ryan set the phone aside. Who's next on the list? Marcus Chen, head of security. He's actually waiting in the conference room. Jennifer told him you'd want to speak with him. Marcus Chen was everything David Torres wasn't. Calm, professional, and apparently unsurprised by the questioning. He was late 40s, former Marine, with the kind of quiet competence that came from years of experience. Mr. Mercer, he said, shaking Ryan's hand with a grip that tested without being aggressive. I've reviewed the footage from yesterday. Impressive work. Textbook close quarters combat, executed flawlessly under pressure. Just training. Training and instinct. Most people freeze. You moved. Marcus settled into his chair. So what do you want to know? Ryan appreciated the directness. Your security protocols. How did 4 armed men get through your screening process? They didn't come through main entrance. They came through the service bay, same place you were. There's a flaw in the coverage there, a blind spot in the camera angles. I'd identified it in my quarterly review and requested upgrades. He pulled up a report on his tablet. Request was approved, but installation was scheduled for next month. Bad timing. Who knew about the blind spot? Me, the installation team, and Ms. Grant. It's in the security reports that go to her office monthly. Does David Torres receive those reports? No. He gets high-level summaries, but not technical details. That's above his clearance level. Interesting. So David couldn't have known about the blind spot, which meant either Marcus was lying or the attackers had discovered it themselves. What about yesterday's events? You were on site? In my office, monitoring feeds. When the attack started, I initiated lockdown protocols and called 911. By the time I reached the showroom, you'd already neutralized the targets. Marcus met Ryan's eyes. I should have been faster. That's on me. You followed protocol. That's not a failure. Tell that to the people who could have been killed while I was following protocol. There was genuine frustration in his voice. I've been doing security work for 20 years, Mr. Mercer. Yesterday was the first time I've ever felt inadequate. Ryan understood that feeling. Walk me through your investigation of the leak. How did those men know Ms. Grant's schedule? That's the question. Her calendar is on a secure server, access limited to 5 people. Ms. Grant, Jennifer, David, Dr. Kwan, and myself. I've been through the logs 3 times. No unauthorized access, no unusual login patterns. What about social engineering, someone calling and pretending to be authorized? Jennifer's too sharp for that. And our phone systems log everything. I've checked. Nothing suspicious. Ryan drummed his fingers on the table, thinking. So either someone with authorized access leaked the information, or there's a technical vulnerability you haven't found yet. Or both, Marcus said grimly, which is why Miss Grant hired you. Fresh eyes, different perspective. What's your take on David Torres? Solid businessman. Sometimes clashes with Ms. Grant over priorities. He wants to maximize profits, she wants to perfect the technology. But he's been loyal. I've never seen anything that suggests otherwise. And Dr. Kwan? Brilliant engineer. Lives and breathes the project. If anything, she's overprotective of Athena. She fought me on having Colonel Vance in the lab, said too many people knew too much. She might have a point. Ryan made notes. What about Colonel Vance himself? Marcus hesitated. DoD liaison. He's been cleared by military intelligence, top secret classification. But what? He asks a lot of questions, more than oversight requires. Details about the security systems, the staff backgrounds, the building layout. Could be he's thorough. Could be he's gathering intelligence. For who? That's what worries me. I don't know. Marcus leaned forward. Look, Mr. Mercer, I'm not going to pretend yesterday didn't shake me. I've designed security for Fortune 500 companies, government facilities, even foreign embassies, and 4 guys with guns walked through my defenses like they weren't even there. So if you find something I missed, I won't be offended. I'll be grateful. Ryan respected that. Pride was useful, but flexibility was survival. I'll need full access to your security systems, server logs, camera feeds, badge reader data, everything. You'll have it within the hour. Marcus stood, offering his hand again. Welcome to the team, Mr. Mercer. God knows we need you. After Marcus left, Ryan spent the next 3 hours buried in security data. Jennifer brought him coffee, good coffee, not the police station sludge, and quietly informed him that Theo was having a great time in the childcare room and had already made 2 friends. At 4 p.m., Alyssa appeared in the doorway. Find anything? Maybe. Ryan pulled up a series of timestamps. Your security cameras record continuously, but there's a gap yesterday morning. 17 minutes of missing footage from the service bay cameras starting at 8:05. Equipment malfunction? That's what the log says, but it's convenient timing. 8:05 is exactly when the attackers would have been doing reconnaissance, checking out that blind spot Marcus mentioned. You think someone deleted the footage? I think someone made it look like equipment malfunction. Whoever did it knew the system well enough to forge the error logs. Ryan showed her the code. See this? It's almost perfect. But there's a timestamp inconsistency, microseconds off. A human reviewing it would miss it, but a program checking patterns would catch it. Marcus would know how to do that. So would anyone with advanced IT knowledge. Dr. Kwan, maybe even someone from your engineering team. Ryan closed the laptop. I need to talk to Kwan next, and then Vance. Sarah's in the lab. I'll take you down. They retrieved Theo first, happy and exhausted from playing, clutching a drawing he'd made of what he claimed was Ryan fighting dragons. That's you, Dad! You're the hero! Ryan's chest tightened. How about we get you home, hero? Mrs. Chen is probably wondering where we are. But Theo yawned. Can I stay a little longer? We were going to watch a movie. Alyssa crouched down to Theo's level. How about this? You stay and finish the movie, and your dad will come back to get you in an hour. Miss Sarah will take excellent care of you. Is that okay, Dad? Ryan wanted to say no. Wanted to keep Theo close, keep him safe. But the childcare room was in one of the most secure buildings in the city, and he needed to finish these interviews. 1 hour, he agreed. Then we're going home. Deal! Theo ran back to his new friends, already forgetting about Ryan. He'll be fine, Alyssa said softly. I promise. They took the elevator back down to B3. The same guards were at their posts, and beyond the vault door they found Dr. Sarah Kwan hunched over a workstation, so absorbed in her work that she didn't notice them enter. Sarah, Alyssa called gently. The engineer jumped, spinning around. She was Asian American, early 30s, with the kind of intense focus that brilliant people often had. Alyssa, You scared me. I was just running diagnostics on the encryption protocols and she noticed Ryan. Oh, you must be the new security consultant. Ryan Mercer. He didn't offer his hand, keeping his distance, observing. I need to ask you some questions. About what? About who had access to Ms. Grant's schedule yesterday. About the missing camera footage. About anything unusual you've noticed in the past few weeks. Sarah's eyes widened. You think I'm the leak? I think everyone is a potential leak until proven otherwise. That's how security works. Well, I'm not. Her voice rose defensively. I've dedicated 3 years to Athena. I've sacrificed relationships, sleep, my health. I would never. Then helping me find who did should be your top priority. Ryan pulled out the tablet. Walk me through your access to the building's security systems. I don't have access. I'm an engineer, not IT. But you work on AI systems. You understand code, network architecture, encryption. Yes, but I wouldn't sabotage our own security. That would put Athena at risk, and Athena is... She stopped, taking a breath. Athena is everything. It's Mr. Grant's legacy. It's the future of transportation. It's bigger than any of us. Someone doesn't agree with that, Ryan said. Someone thinks it's worth stealing, worth killing for. Sarah looked at Alyssa. I swear to you, I had nothing to do with yesterday's attack. I was in this lab from 6 a.m. until Marcus called about the lockdown. The security logs will confirm that. They do, Ryan admitted, but you could have set things in motion earlier, compromised the cameras remotely, passed information to the attackers. I didn't! Then prove it. Show me your work logs, your access history, anything that demonstrates your innocence. What followed was an hour of intense review, Sarah pulling up every piece of documentation, every timestamp, every interaction with the security systems. She was meticulous, almost obsessive about her records. She's clean, Ryan finally told Alyssa. At least from what I can verify here. But I still want to monitor her communications for the next few weeks. That's invasive, Sarah protested. That's necessary, Ryan countered. Someone is feeding information to Varen's organization. Until we find them, everyone gets watched. Sarah looked like she wanted to argue, but Alyssa cut her off. He's right, Sarah. I don't like it either, but he's right. Just cooperate, please. After Sarah reluctantly agreed, they left the lab. In the elevator, Alyssa slumped against the wall. This is exhausting. Suspecting my own people. It's survival. Get used to it. How did you do it? In the military? Trusting people with your life while knowing any of them could turn? Ryan thought about squad mates, about missions where everything depended on the person next to you. You verify, then you trust, in that order. And if someone proves themselves, you trust them completely until they give you reason not to. Has anyone ever given you reason? The elevator stopped. The doors opened. Ryan stepped out without answering because some memories were too dark to share. Colonel Richard Vance was waiting in a conference room on the main floor, uniform pressed, posture military perfect. He stood when they entered, assessing Ryan with the quick evaluation of someone trained to spot threats. Mr. Mercer, the hero of the hour. Ms. Grant speaks highly of you. Colonel. Ryan shook his hand. Firm grip, no dominance games. Thanks for meeting with me. Not like I had a choice. When Ms. Grant says jump, DoD usually asks how high. Her technology is that valuable. Vance gestured for them to sit. What do you need to know? Everything about the DoD's involvement with Athena. Who knows about it? Who has access to information about Ms. Grant's schedule, who might have a motive to steal or sabotage the project? Vance's expression darkened. That's classified information, Mr. Mercer. Even with Ms. Grant's clearance, I can't discuss. Colonel, someone leaked intelligence that resulted in an armed assault on an American citizen. Someone with detailed knowledge of Operation Security and Ms. Grant's movements. If that someone is in your chain of command, I need to know. Are you accusing military intelligence? I'm accusing everyone until the evidence tells me otherwise. That includes you. The temperature in the room dropped about 20 degrees. Vance stood slowly, his face hard. I've served this country for 31 years, Mr. Mercer. I've been shot at in 3 different countries. I've held clearances higher than you can imagine. And you're going to sit there and suggest I'm compromised? I'm suggesting that everyone is a potential risk, even decorated colonels with perfect service records. Well, Ryan didn't back down. Now you can be offended, or you can help me protect Ms. Grant and her project. Your choice. Vance stared at him for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he laughed, short and sharp. You've got balls. I'll give you that. Fine. What do you want to know? Who at the DoD knows about yesterday's demonstration schedule? Myself, 3 officers in the Autonomous Systems Division, and 2 senators on the Armed Services Committee. All cleared, all vetted, all with decades of service. Any of them have financial problems? Gambling debts, expensive divorces, anything that might make them vulnerable to bribery? Not that I'm aware of, but I can request background updates, see if anything's changed recently. Do that. What about communication security? How do you coordinate with Ms. Grant? Encrypted emails, secure phone lines, occasional in-person briefings like this. Standard protocol. Anyone else have access to those communications? My executive officer sees the traffic logs, but not the content. Encrypted communications get flagged in the system, but only I have the decryption keys. Ryan made notes. What about yesterday? Where were you during the attack? At the Pentagon, in a budget meeting that lasted from 0800 to 1200 hours. Approximately 40 witnesses, including a 3-star general who spent most of it yelling about procurement costs. Vance's expression softened slightly. I heard about the attack 3 hours after it happened. By then, you'd already become a legend in certain circles. I'm not a legend. I'm just a guy who got lucky. Luck is what people call it when skill meets preparation. Vance leaned forward. I've read your service record, Mercer. 14 deployments, multiple commendations, 2 Bronze Stars. You weren't lucky yesterday. You were lethal. That life is over. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, you're right back in it. Vance pulled out a file, slid it across the table. This is everything DoD has on Silas Varon. It's not much. The man is a ghost. But maybe you'll see something we missed. Ryan opened the file. Photos. Grainy surveillance images from different countries. Financial trails that led nowhere. A list of suspected operations, all technological thefts, all unsolved. And then he saw it. A notation from 6 years ago. An operation in Syria. Intelligence suggested Varon had been funding insurgent groups, providing them with communications technology in exchange for stolen military equipment. The operation that had been Ryan's last mission, the one he'd tried so hard to forget. You recognize something, Vance observed. Ryan forced his voice steady. I might have encountered Varon's operation before. Indirectly. Care to elaborate? Not really. Ryan closed the file. But if he's the same network I think he is, then he's more dangerous than you realize, and more connected. Connected to what? To people who should be dead but aren't. To operations that officially never happened. Ryan met Vance's eyes. If Varon is involved, Colonel, then this goes deeper than corporate espionage. This goes to military intelligence, black operations, things that stay classified for a reason. The room went quiet. Alyssa looked between them, clearly sensing something she wasn't being told. I'll make some calls, Vance said finally. See what I can shake loose from old contacts. But Mercer, if you know something specific, I know that Silas Varon is connected to a network I helped dismantle 6 years ago. I know that they have resources, connections, and a very long memory. Ryan stood. And I know that if they're after Athena, they won't stop with one failed attack. They'll come again, harder, smarter, and soon. Vance stood too. Then we'd better be ready. After the colonel left, Alyssa grabbed Ryan's arm. What was that? What operation? What aren't you telling me? Nothing that changes what we're doing here. Bullshit! You went pale when you saw that file. You know something about Varon. Ryan pulled free, gently but firmly. I need to pick up Theo. We can talk about this tomorrow. Ryan, tomorrow, Alyssa, please. He left before she could argue, taking the elevator up to the childcare room where Theo was watching the end credits of an animated movie, surrounded by new friends and blissfully unaware of the danger swirling around them. Ready to go home, buddy? Do I have to? Yeah, but maybe we can come back if Dad's job works out. On the drive home, Alyssa had arranged for his car to be delivered from the police impound. Theo chattered about his day, about the games he'd played, about a girl named Emma who could draw better than anyone he'd ever seen. Normal kid stuff. Beautiful, ordinary, safe. But in Ryan's mind, old ghosts were stirring, missions he'd tried to forget, a network he'd thought destroyed, and the growing certainty that yesterday's attack wasn't just about stealing technology, it was personal. Varen knew who he was, maybe had known all along, and if that was true, then everything, Alyssa, Athena, this whole situation was about to get much worse. Because 6 years ago, Ryan had killed Varen's brother, and some debts could never be forgiven. That night, after Theo fell asleep, Ryan sat on the apartment balcony with a beer he didn't drink and memories he couldn't escape. Syria, 6 years ago. The operation had been classified then and probably still was. The kind of mission that never appeared in official records, conducted by soldiers who technically didn't exist. The target had been an arms dealer named Victor Veron, Silas's older brother, a man who'd been funneling advanced communications technology to insurgent groups in exchange for stolen military hardware. Intel suggested he was operating out of a compound near Raqqa, protected by mercenaries and local fighters who didn't ask questions as long as the money kept flowing. Ryan's team, 8 Rangers, all volunteers for off-book operations, had gone in during a sandstorm, using the chaos as cover. The mission had been surgical: extract Victor, bring him back for interrogation, dismantle the network. Simple on paper, catastrophic in execution. Because Victor Veron hadn't been just an arms dealer, he'd been bait. The compound had been rigged with explosives, pressure sensors on every door, tripwires in hallways. They'd lost 2 men in the first 60 seconds, Collins and Martinez, good soldiers who'd trusted the intel and paid with their lives. The rest of the team had pushed forward anyway, because that's what you did. You completed the mission even when it went to hell. Ryan had found Victor in the central room, surrounded by servers and equipment, calmly destroying hard drives while his compound burned around him. He'd smiled when Ryan kicked in the door, like he'd been expecting this exact moment. "You're too late," Victor had said in accented English. "The data is already transmitted. My brother has everything." "Then you're just a loose end," Ryan had replied, weapon raised. "You think killing me stops anything? You think my brother will forget? He'll hunt every one of you. He'll burn your families, your—" Ryan had pulled the trigger. Center mass, 3 rounds, textbook execution. Victor had dropped, and Ryan had felt nothing. Just the cold efficiency of a soldier doing his job. Except the job hadn't been done. The compound had collapsed as they extracted, killing 1 more ranger, Thompson, who'd saved Ryan's life by pushing him clear of falling debris. And the intelligence Victor had transmitted? It had led to a series of attacks on forward operating bases across 3 countries, killing 47 American soldiers in 6 weeks before the network had finally been dismantled. Ryan had come home with medals and nightmares, convinced that killing Victor Veron had been justice for Collins, Martinez, and Thompson. But if Silas Varen had been tracking him all this time, waiting for the right moment to strike back, then those deaths had been for nothing. And now Alyssa and Theo were caught in the crossfire of a revenge he'd thought was buried with Victor's body in an unmarked grave somewhere in the Syrian desert. His phone buzzed. A text from Alyssa. "Alyssa, can't sleep either? Call me if you want to talk about what you saw in that file." Ryan stared at the message. He should tell her. She deserved to know that this wasn't just about stealing Athena, that it was personal, that Silas Veron might be using the prototype as bait to draw Ryan out. But telling her meant admitting he'd brought this danger to her door, meant accepting that his past had poisoned her present. He typed a response. "Ryan, tomorrow. I'll tell you everything tomorrow. Alyssa. Promise?" Ryan. "Promise." He went inside, checked on Theo 1 more time. The boy was sprawled across his bed, 1 arm hanging off the edge, completely at peace, and tried to sleep. Failed. At 3 a.m., he gave up and started reviewing the security files again, looking for patterns he'd missed. The missing camera footage bothered him. 17 minutes was too precise to be coincidental. Someone had known exactly how long the attackers needed to scout the service bay and had deleted just enough footage to cover their reconnaissance without making the gap obvious. Marcus Chen had the skills to do it. So did Dr. Kwan, despite her protests. David Torres probably could have hired someone. Even Colonel Vance, with military intelligence resources, could have arranged it, but none of them had an obvious motive. Marcus took security failures personally. Yesterday had genuinely shaken him. Sarah was obsessively protective of Athena. David's entire financial future depended on the demonstration succeeding, and Vance's career would be destroyed if a DoD project was compromised on his watch, unless one of them was compromised in ways Ryan hadn't discovered yet. Blackmail, maybe, or ideology. Someone who believed Athena was too dangerous to exist and wanted it destroyed rather than stolen. Ryan was still wrestling with possibilities when dawn broke and Theo emerged from the bedroom, hair sticking up in 3 directions. "Dad? Did you sleep at all?" "A little." Ryan closed the laptop. "How about pancakes again?" "Can we have bacon too?" They couldn't really afford bacon, but Ryan nodded anyway. Some things mattered more than money, like sitting across the table from his son, watching him devour breakfast and chatter about school and friends, and whether Iron Man could beat Superman in a fight. "Dad?" Theo asked around a mouthful of pancake. "Are you going to be gone a lot with your new job?" "Some. But I'll always be here for the important stuff. School pickup, bedtime, pancake breakfasts." "What about my birthday? That's in 6 weeks." 6 weeks. Ryan's chest tightened. The DoD demonstration was in 3 weeks, which meant if he survived that, Theo's birthday would be his first priority. If he didn't survive... "I'll be there for your birthday," Ryan promised. "We'll do something special. Maybe that trampoline park you've been asking about?" Theo's eyes lit up. "Really?" "Really. You're turning 8. That's a big deal." After dropping Theo at school, with extra hugs and reassurances that yes, Dad would definitely pick him up at 3:30, Ryan drove to Nexus Corps. Jennifer met him at security with a visitor badge that had been upgraded to permanent employee status. "Miss Grant is already in her office," Jennifer said, "and she asked me to tell you that Colonel Vance called. He has information." Ryan took the elevator up, finding Alyssa at her desk, surrounded by coffee cups and what looked like architectural blueprints. "You look terrible," she observed. "Didn't sleep." "Neither did I. I kept thinking about what you said yesterday, about Varen's connections to military operations." She stood, moving to the windows. "Ryan, if this is bigger than corporate espionage, I need to know, because I'm putting people at risk. My employees, my partners, even Theo, by having him here." "Theo's not coming back here." "That's not what I meant. But the fact that you're worried tells me everything." She turned to face him. "So tell me, what happened 6 years ago?" Ryan sat heavily in one of her chairs. "I killed Silas Varon's brother." The words hung in the air between them. Alyssa's expression shifted from concern to shock to understanding. "The operation in Syria, that's what you saw in the file." "Victor Varon was my target. He was funneling weapons technology to insurgent groups, getting Americans killed. My team went in to extract him, but it was a trap. We lost 3 men, and Victor died in the firefight. I'm the one who pulled the trigger. And Silas has been planning revenge ever since. Maybe. Or maybe I'm being paranoid, and this really is just about Athena." But Ryan didn't believe that, and from Alyssa's expression, neither did she. "The attack yesterday," Alyssa said slowly. "They wanted the prototype, but they also wanted you there. Connor Blake could have killed me immediately, but he waited. He drew it out, like he was giving someone time to arrive. Giving me time to play hero, to reveal myself." Ryan ran his hands through his hair. "God, I've been an idiot. I should have walked away yesterday. Should have let your regular security handle it. Then I'd be dead, or kidnapped, or whatever Varen had planned. But Theo would be safe. You'd be someone else's problem." "Listen to yourself." Alyssa crossed the room, crouching in front of his chair so they were eye level. "You're not responsible for a madman's revenge fantasy. You did your job 6 years ago. You saved American lives by stopping Victor Varon. That's honor, not guilt. Tell that to Collins, Martinez, and Thompson. Tell that to their families. Those men knew the risks, just like you did, just like I do now." Her voice was firm. "If Varen is using Athena as bait to draw you out, then we use that. We turn his trap against him." "That's insane. That's tactical thinking. You're the soldier here. Isn't that what you people do? Use the enemy's plan against them?" Ryan wanted to argue, but she had a point. If Varen was focused on revenge, he'd be emotionally compromised. Emotional enemies made mistakes, and mistakes could be exploited. We'd need perfect intelligence, Ryan said, thinking it through. We'd need to know his next move before he makes it. We'd need a way to feed him false information, Alyssa finished, through our leak. Once we identify who it is, we don't arrest them. We use them. It was dangerous, possibly suicidal, but it was also the kind of aggressive defense that might actually work. Colonel Vance's information, Ryan said. Let's hear what he's got. Vance arrived an hour later, looking like he'd slept even less than they had. He carried a thick file marked classified and set it on Alyssa's desk with the gravity of a bomb. This doesn't leave this room, he said without preamble. And officially, this conversation never happened. Understood, Alyssa said. Vance opened the file. I made some calls, talked to people who owe me favors in places that don't officially exist. Silas Varon isn't just a tech crime lord. He's the invisible hand behind half the intellectual property thefts in the last decade. But here's what's interesting. He's selective. He only targets specific technologies. What kind? Ryan asked. Military applications, autonomous systems, AI, communications networks, anything that could be weaponized or sold to hostile nations. He's not motivated by money alone. He's motivated by ideology. What ideology? Anti-American imperialism, for lack of a better term. He believes American military technology is the root of global oppression, and by stealing and redistributing it, he's leveling the playing field. Vance pulled out a photo, surveillance image of a man in his 40s, gaunt face, cold eyes. This is Silas Varon, taken in Prague 2 years ago. He's been on Interpol's watch list for 8 years. Nobody can touch him. Ryan stared at the photo. Those eyes held intelligence, calculation, and something else. Rage, maybe. The kind of cold fury that could sustain a man through years of planning. My contact confirmed that Silas has been tracking you, Mercer, since Syria. He has a file on you, service record, home address, family information. He knows about Theo. Ice flooded Ryan's veins. He knows about my son? Has for years. But he hasn't made a move, which suggests he's been waiting for the right moment. The right leverage. Vance gestured to the file. Athena gives him that leverage. He gets revenge on you and acquires a $40 million weapons system. 2 birds, 1 stone. Then we move Theo, Ryan said immediately. Protective custody, safe house, whatever it takes. Already arranged. Vance pulled out a phone. I took the liberty of contacting FBI. They have a secure facility 2 hours outside the city. Family members of protected witnesses, high-value targets. Your son would be safe there until this resolves. Ryan's mind was racing. Protective custody meant uprooting Theo from school, from friends, from the only stability he'd known. It meant terrifying him with explanations Ryan didn't want to give, but it meant he'd be alive. How soon can you arrange it? Today. This afternoon, if needed. Vance checked his watch. But Mercer, you need to understand, if we do this, if we put your son in protective custody, it's an admission that Varen's threat is credible. It'll escalate his timeline. Meaning? Meaning he'll know we're on to him. He'll accelerate whatever he's planning. The demonstration is in 3 weeks, but if he thinks we're preparing defenses, he might move sooner. Let him, Alyssa said. We'll be ready. Will you? Vance's question was pointed. Because my contacts suggest Varen has significant resources. We're talking about a private army, military-grade equipment, intelligence networks that rival some nation-states. The attack yesterday was a probe, a test of defenses. The real assault will be exponentially worse. Ryan stood, moving to the windows. Below, the city sprawled in its usual chaos. People going to work, living their lives, completely unaware of the violence brewing in the shadows. Then we need to force his hand, Ryan said. We announce a fake transportation schedule for Athena. Make it public enough that Varen's sources will pick it up. Set a trap. Using what as bait? Vance asked. Me. Ryan turned back to them. If this is about revenge, then I'm what he really wants. We create a scenario where I'm vulnerable, where he thinks he can get to me and the prototype simultaneously, draw him out into the open. That's suicide, Alyssa said. That's war. And if we're going to fight it, we fight it on our terms, not his. Vance studied Ryan for a long moment. You're talking about a kill operation. Off the books. Illegal under about 15 different statutes. I'm talking about defending American lives and American technology from a terrorist. If that happens to be illegal, Colonel, then you can arrest me after Varon's dead. I like him, Vance said to Alyssa. He's crazy, but I like him. He's practical, Alyssa corrected. And he's right. We can't just wait for Varon to hit us again. We need to be proactive. They spent the next 2 hours planning. Vance would coordinate with FBI on Theo's protective custody. Alyssa would create a false transportation schedule and leak it through carefully monitored channels, and Ryan would prepare for whatever came next. At noon, Ryan picked Theo up from school early, inventing a story about a special lunch date. They went to Theo's favorite burger place, and Ryan watched his son eat and laugh and be gloriously, heartbreakingly normal. Dad? Theo asked, dipping a French fry in ketchup. You're being weird. Weird how? Like you're sad. Did something happen with your job? Ryan reached across the table, taking his son's small hand. Theo, I need to talk to you about something important, and I need you to be brave, okay? Theo's smile faded. Okay. My new job is dangerous. Not super dangerous, but enough that I want to make sure you're extra safe while I'm working. So for the next few weeks, you're going to stay somewhere very secure with some very nice people who are going to take excellent care of you. Like a vacation? Sort of, I'll tut. Except without me. Theo's eyes filled with tears. I don't want to go without you. I know, buddy. I don't want you to go either, but it's just temporary, just until my job is finished, and then we'll be together again, and I promise I'll take you to that trampoline park for your birthday. What if you don't come back? The question hit Ryan like a physical blow. I'll come back, I swear. That's what Mom said, before she left. Ryan came around the table, pulling Theo into a fierce hug. His son felt so small, so fragile. How had he ever thought he could balance being a soldier and being a father? I'm not Mom, Ryan said into Theo's hair. I'm not leaving you. I'm protecting you. There's a difference. Promise? I promise. That afternoon, an FBI escort arrived, 2 agents, professional and kind, who explained everything to Theo in age-appropriate terms. They called it a special camp, where he'd have his own room, video games, and other kids to play with. They showed him pictures of the facility. It looked like a summer camp, all cabins and playgrounds. Can I call Dad? Theo asked. Every day, the female agent promised. Twice a day if you want. And if there's an emergency, he can visit. Ryan packed Theo's bag, clothes, toys, the stuffed dinosaur he'd had since he was 3. Mrs. Chen came down to say goodbye, pressing cookies into Theo's hands and whispering something in Vietnamese that made the boy smile despite his tears. Be brave, Ryan told his son at the car. Be strong. And remember that I love you more than anything in this world. Even more than pancakes? Even more than pancakes. Theo hugged him one more time, and then he was gone, the FBI car disappearing around the corner, taking Ryan's entire world with it. Ryan stood on the sidewalk for a long time, feeling hollowed out. Mrs. Chen touched his arm gently. He will be safe, and you will bring him home. How do you know? Because you are his father, and fathers do impossible things for their children. Ryan went back to his apartment, empty now and echoing. He sat at the kitchen table where he and Theo had eaten pancakes just that morning, and for the first time in 6 years, he let himself cry. Not for long, just a few minutes of grief and fear and rage at the situation he'd created. Then he wiped his face, pulled out his laptop, and got to work. If Varon wanted a war, he'd give him one. Over the next week, Ryan transformed Alyssa's security protocols. He installed additional cameras, reinforced access points, trained her existing security team in close-quarters combat scenarios. Marcus Chen proved invaluable. The man had been waiting for someone to take security seriously, and he threw himself into the upgrades with enthusiasm. Finally, Marcus said as they reviewed the new protocols, someone who understands that security isn't about deterrence. It's about winning the fight that deterrence fails to prevent. Ryan also monitored the leak operation. Alyssa had created a false transportation schedule showing Athena would be moved to a secure DoD facility in 10 days, transported via armored truck through a specific route. They'd buried the information in encrypted emails between Alyssa and Colonel Vance, but with just enough vulnerability in the encryption that a skilled hacker could break it. If Varen takes the bait, he'll hit the convoy, Ryan explained to the team. We'll have 3 layers of defense: visible security that looks standard, hidden backup that looks excessive, and a kill team that nobody sees coming. And if he doesn't take the bait? David Torres asked. He'd been surprisingly cooperative after the initial interview, even offering to help coordinate the false information. Then we know he has better intelligence than we thought, and we recalibrate. But Varen took the bait. 5 days after they'd planted the information, Vance's contacts reported unusual communications traffic among known Varon operatives. Travel patterns suggested personnel moving into position, weapon purchases through black market channels. He's coming, Vance confirmed. Probably a team of 12 to 15 professional mercenaries. They'll hit the convoy en route, overwhelm security through superior firepower. Then we make sure our firepower is more superior, Ryan said. The night before the planned convoy, Ryan video called Theo. His son looked healthy, happy even, surrounded by new friends in what the agents had carefully framed as an adventure. Dad, we went kayaking today, and tomorrow we're doing archery. That sounds amazing, buddy. When can I come home? Soon, maybe next week. How does that sound? Good. I miss you. I miss you too, more than you can imagine. After the call ended, Ryan sat in his empty apartment and wrote a letter, just in case. Instructions for Theo's care, access to his bank account, custody arrangements if something happened. He sealed it in an envelope addressed to Mrs. Chen and left it on the kitchen table. Then he checked his weapons, a Glock 19 that Marcus had secured through proper channels, a backup .38 revolver, and a combat knife. Not an arsenal, but enough. At 4 a.m., he drove to the staging area, an industrial warehouse where the convoy was being assembled. The armored truck looked impressive, built to withstand serious attacks. FBI tactical teams were positioned at key points along the route. Vance had even arranged for helicopter support, though they'd stay out of sight until needed. You don't have to be in the convoy, Alyssa said. She'd insisted on being there for the operation, despite everyone's protests. You can coordinate from a safe distance. If Varen wants me, I need to be visible. That's how we draw him out. And if he kills you? Then make sure it matters. Make sure Athena gets to the DoD and does what it's supposed to do. She grabbed his arm. Ryan, you've become important to this project, to me. Don't throw your life away for revenge. This isn't revenge. This is ending a threat before it comes back for another round. He met her eyes. And for what it's worth, you've become important to me too. Which is why I need to make sure you survive this. The convoy departed at 6 a.m., 3 vehicles, the armored truck in the center, security cars front and back. Ryan rode in the truck's cab, visible through the windshield to anyone watching. Alyssa was secured in the back, along with a decoy case that looked like Athena's containment unit. The real Athena was still in the B3 lab, under guard by Sarah Kwan and a team of Marines that Vance had positioned there. For the first 20 minutes, nothing happened. They drove through the city, onto the highway, following the exact route that had been leaked. Ryan's muscles were coiled tight, every sense alert for the attack he knew was coming. Movement, the driver said suddenly. Black SUVs, 2 of them, coming up fast from behind. Ryan grabbed the radio. All units, we have contact. Prepare for engagement. The SUVs accelerated, pulling alongside the convoy. Windows rolled down. Ryan saw the weapons. Assault rifles. Military grade. Down! He shouted. Gunfire erupted. Bullets hammered the armored truck, spiderwebbing the bulletproof glass but not penetrating. The driver maintained speed and control, executing exactly as trained. The security vehicles returned fire, their trained shooters targeting the SUV's tires and engine blocks. One SUV swerved, losing control, slamming into the highway barrier. The other maintained pursuit. More vehicles ahead, the driver reported, blocking the road. 3 trucks parked across all lanes, armed men taking position behind them. A proper ambush. Varen had committed serious resources to this. FBI, move in, Vance's voice came over the radio. Air support. You're cleared hot. But before the helicopter could engage, an explosion rocked the highway. Planted charges, Ryan realized, tearing apart the road surface. The convoy vehicles swerved, barely maintaining control. And then the remaining SUV rammed them from behind. The impact threw Ryan forward, his seatbelt catching hard across his chest. The driver fought the wheel, but they were losing traction, sliding toward the barrier. "Bail out," Ryan ordered. "Defensive positions." They evacuated the truck just as concentrated fire turned the vehicle into a metal coffin. Ryan pulled Alyssa out, shielding her body with his, as they ran for cover behind the disabled security car. Bullets whined past his head. Someone screamed, one of the FBI agents, hit in the leg. The helicopter overhead opened fire with its minigun, tearing apart one of the blocking trucks. But there were too many hostiles, too much firepower. This wasn't just an ambush. This was a military assault. "Vance," Ryan shouted into his radio, "we need immediate backup. We're being overrun. 5 minutes out. Hold your position." 5 minutes might as well be 5 hours. Ryan returned fire, dropping one attacker, then another. But they kept coming, professional and coordinated, advancing under cover fire. And then Ryan saw him. Standing on top of one of the blocking trucks, surveying the battle like a general watching his army. Silas Veron in person, older than his photos, wearing tactical gear and an expression of cold satisfaction. Their eyes met across the chaos. Veron smiled and spoke into a radio. Immediately, the attack pattern shifted. The mercenaries stopped advancing on the convoy and focused fire specifically on Ryan's position. This was it. The real objective. Not Athena. Him. "Ryan, what are you doing?" Alyssa grabbed his arm as he stood, fully exposing himself to enemy fire. "Giving him what he wants." Ryan handed her his backup weapon. "Stay down. Keep the FBI agents alive. Backup will be here soon." "You'll be dead before then." "Maybe, but he'll be too." Ryan stepped out from cover, weapon raised, walking directly toward Veron's position. Bullets kicked up asphalt around his feet. One grazed his shoulder, hot pain but superficial. He kept walking, returning fire methodically, dropping any mercenary stupid enough to stay visible. 20 feet from Veron's truck, Ryan ran out of ammunition. He dropped the empty pistol and drew his combat knife. Veron laughed, and jumped down from the truck. He was armed with a pistol, could have shot Ryan easily. Instead, he holstered it and drew his own knife. "You killed my brother," Veron said. His accent was thicker in person, Eastern European, carrying years of hatred. "You took him from me. Now I take everything from you. Your brother was a terrorist. He deserved what he got. He was a visionary. He understood that American military dominance had to be challenged, that your technology had to be liberated." Veron circled, knife held expertly. "And you murdered him for following his principles." "I stopped a threat. That's what soldiers do." "Then let us see who is the better soldier." Veron attacked, fast, trained, dangerous. Ryan barely parried the first strike, the blades scraping together with a metallic shriek. They traded blows, both men bleeding from shallow cuts, neither willing to give ground. In the background, sirens wailed. Backup was arriving. Veron's mercenaries were beginning to retreat. Their mission failed. But Veron didn't retreat. He pressed harder, fury overcoming tactics, the emotion that Ryan had been counting on. "You have a son," Veron hissed, trying for a killing strike that Ryan deflected. 7 years old. "Theodore, I could have killed him any time, but I wanted you to suffer first, to lose everything before you died." Red rage flooded Ryan's vision. He dropped his defensive stance and went on pure offense, absorbing a cut to his ribs to get inside Veron's guard. His knife found flesh. Veron's thigh, deep, crippling. Veron screamed and fell. Ryan kicked the knife from his hand and pressed his own blade against Veron's throat. "You die here," Ryan said, "and my son lives. That's the only equation that matters. Kill me, and the network continues. There are others. They'll finish what I started. Then I'll stop them too. That's what I do." Ryan pressed the knife deeper, ready to end it, to finish the revenge cycle that had started in Syria 6 years ago. "Mercer, stand down!" Vance's voice behind him. "FBI has him surrounded. We can take him alive, get intelligence, dismantle his entire organization." Ryan's hand shook. Every instinct screamed to finish this, to make sure Veron could never threaten Theo again. But Vance was right. Alive, Varen could give them everything: names, locations, financial networks. Dead, he became a martyr, and the organization continued. Ryan pulled the knife back. "He's yours, Colonel." FBI agents swarmed forward, securing Varen, reading him rights he probably didn't legally have. Paramedics rushed to treat wounded agents. The helicopter landed, disgorging more tactical personnel. Alyssa appeared at Ryan's side, her face pale but her hands steady. "You're bleeding." "I'm alive, that's what counts." Ryan watched Varen being hauled away, still screaming threats in 3 languages. "It's over." But even as he said it, Ryan knew it wasn't entirely true. Varen might be captured, but his network remained. The threat had been diminished, not eliminated. Still, for now, Theo was safe. Athena was secure, and Ryan was alive to fight another day. That would have to be enough. 3 hours later, after being treated by paramedics and debriefed by FBI, Ryan finally made it to a phone. "Theo? Hey buddy, it's Dad." "Dad, are you okay? The agents wouldn't tell me anything." "I'm fine, everything's fine. And guess what? You get to come home tomorrow." "Really? Really? Really?" "Really, really. The bad stuff is over. We won." "Did you beat the bad guys?" Ryan looked at his bandaged shoulder, the bruises forming across his ribs, the cuts that would scar. "Yeah, buddy, we beat the bad guys. I knew you would. You're a hero." "No," Ryan said softly. "I'm just your dad, and that's the only job that matters." After the call, Alyssa found him sitting outside the FBI Mobile Command Center, watching the sun set over the highway that had almost become his grave. "The DoD wants to move up the demonstration," she said. "Colonel Vance thinks with Varen captured, the threat level has dropped enough that we can proceed safely in 2 weeks instead of 3. And you? I think I need a vacation after this, somewhere tropical, with no technology and no people trying to kill me." She sat beside him. "But first I need to ask you something." "Go ahead." "The job offer was for 3 months, but I'd like to make it permanent. Head of security for Nexus Corps, full benefits, salary, negotiable. You'd be protecting not just me, but the future of autonomous transportation." She paused. "And you'd be giving Theo the stable life he deserves." Ryan thought about Theo's birthday coming up, about the trampoline park and pancake breakfasts and all the normal moments he wanted his son to have. What about the danger? Varen might be captured, but like he said, there are others. There will always be others. That's the nature of valuable technology. But with you leading security, I actually believe we can handle them. She met his eyes. "You saved my life twice now, Ryan. I'm not ready to let you walk away." "I'm expensive." "I'm rich. Try again." Despite everything, the pain, the exhaustion, the near-death experience, Ryan smiled. 80,000, final offer. 75 and I'll get Theo into the best private school in the city. Deal. They shook hands, and for the first time in 6 years, Ryan felt something like hope. Not certainty, not safety, but the possibility that maybe, just maybe, he could build a life that balanced who he'd been with, who he wanted to become. That night, in his empty apartment, Ryan slept for 12 hours straight. When he woke, there was a message from Vance. "Vance. Varen is talking, giving us everything. You might have just prevented a dozen major attacks. Well done, soldier." And another from Theo. "Theo. The agent says I can come home tomorrow. Can we get pizza for dinner?" Ryan smiled and typed back. "Ryan, pizza and ice cream. I'll pick you up at noon. Love you, buddy." The next few days passed in a blur of debriefings, medical checkups, and paperwork. Varen's organization was systematically dismantled. Arrests across 4 continents, seized assets worth hundreds of millions. It turned out Victor and Silas Varen had been planning their revenge for years, using Athena as the perfect bait. But they'd underestimated Ryan's willingness to risk everything for the people he protected. When Ryan finally picked Theo up from the FBI facility, his son ran into his arms with such force they both nearly fell over. "I missed you so much." "I missed you more." "That's impossible." "Then we'll call it a tie." They went for pizza as promised and ice cream, and spent the evening watching movies and pretending the past weeks hadn't happened. But before bed, Theo asked the question Ryan had been dreading. "Dad, are the bad guys all gone now?" Ryan thought about lying, about giving his son the comfort of certainty. But Theo deserved honesty. Most of them. And the ones who aren't gone know better than to come near us. Because you'll protect me? Always, no matter what. Theo hugged him tight. I know. As Ryan tucked his son into bed, watching him drift off to sleep, he felt the weight of every choice that had led to this moment. Joining the military, Syria, Victor Veron, coming home. Every decision had carved the path to right here, right now, a small apartment, a sleeping child, and a future that finally felt possible. Tomorrow, he'd go back to Nexus Core. He'd finalize the security protocols for the DoD demonstration. He'd continue building a career that could support Theo and give him opportunities Ryan had never had. But tonight, he was just a father, sitting beside his son's bed, grateful beyond words that they'd both survived. Outside, the city hummed with its usual chaos. Somewhere, Silas Veron sat in a federal prison, his revenge fantasy destroyed. Somewhere, Athena waited in its secure lab, ready to change the future of transportation. And here, in a modest apartment in a building that had seen better days, Ryan Mercer, former soldier, single father, reluctant hero, finally allowed himself to believe that maybe the wars were over. Maybe he could finally come home. But Ryan had forgotten the most important rule of warfare. The enemy always gets a vote. 3 days after Veron's capture, while Ryan was reviewing security footage at Nexus Core, his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Mercer. The voice was female, accented, cold as winter steel. My name is Katya Volkov. I work for the organization your government believes it has dismantled. Ryan's blood turned to ice. He immediately signaled to Marcus, who started tracing the call. Veron's in custody. Your operation is over. Silas was always too emotional, too focused on personal revenge when he should have been focused on the mission. She spoke with the detachment of someone discussing weather patterns. But his failure has created an opportunity, a chance to finish what should have been done properly from the beginning. And what's that? We have your son, Mr. Mercer. The world stopped. Ryan's vision tunneled. You're lying. He's in FBI protective custody. There's no way. There are always ways. The facility outside Harrisburg, yes? Cabin 7, blue shutters. Theodore's room has dinosaur posters on the wall. He was playing video games with a boy named Marcus when my team arrived 40 minutes ago. Ryan was already running for the elevator, Marcus right behind him. If you hurt him, then you will suffer. Yes, I know the threat. But threats are pointless now. We have what we want. You have something we want. We trade. Athena, the real one, not your clever decoy from the convoy. We know it's still in your building, level B3, inside a transparent containment unit. Katya's voice remained unnervingly calm. You will deliver it to us personally, tonight, alone, or your son dies slowly while you listen on the phone. How do I know he's alive? How do I know this isn't... There was a sound of movement, then Theo's voice, terrified and small. Dad? Dad, there are bad people here, and they have guns, and... The phone was yanked away. Proof of life, you have 6 hours, Mr. Mercer. I will send you coordinates. Come alone. Bring Athena. Or I start removing your son's fingers. The line went dead. Ryan stood in the elevator, Marcus staring at him with horror. They have Theo. That's impossible. The FBI facility is... Call Vance now. Confirm if Theo's okay. But Ryan already knew the answer. Katya Volkov wouldn't have made those threats without leverage. Marcus made the call. The response came back within minutes. 2 agents dead, 3 children missing, including Theo. The facility had been breached by a professional team, in and out in under 8 minutes. Security footage showed 6 operatives, all masked, moving with military precision. Veron's organization wasn't dismantled, Ryan said, his voice hollow. We got 1 cell, 1 man. The network is bigger than we thought. Alyssa appeared, having heard the commotion. What happened? They took Theo. They want Athena in exchange. Then give it to them. No hesitation, no calculation, just immediate certainty. Ryan, I don't care about the prototype. I care about that little boy. We'll rebuild. They won't honor the trade. Ryan was already thinking tactically, pushing emotion down where it couldn't cloud his judgment. They'll take Athena and kill both of us. That's standard procedure for operations like this. Then what do? We give them what they want, but not how they expect it. Ryan turned to Marcus. I need the building's complete blueprints. I need weapons. And I need to know if you're willing to break about 15 federal laws. For that kid, I'd break 50. Marcus pulled out his tablet. What's the plan? The coordinates Katya sent were for an abandoned waterfront warehouse, classic hostage exchange location. Plenty of cover for her team, limited escape routes for the hostage, perfect kill zone if things went wrong. She was professional. Ryan had to give her that. It's a trap, Colonel Vance said over the encrypted line. He'd arrived at Nexus Core within an hour of learning about Theo's abduction. They'll have snipers positioned, probably claymores at the exits. You go in there alone, you're dead. Then I don't go in alone. I go in first. Ryan traced the warehouse layout on the blueprint. FBI positions here, here, and here. Sniper overwatch from this building, but nobody moves until I have eyes on Theo and confirm he's alive. And Athena? Ryan looked at the black box sitting on Alyssa's desk, the real prototype, pulled from B3 storage. $40 million of research. The future of autonomous transportation. Everything Alyssa's father had dreamed of building. We bring it, but we make sure they can't use it. Explain, Vance said, Doctor. Sarah Kwan, who'd been working frantically since learning about the situation, looked up from her laptop. I can install a kill switch. If Athena's systems don't receive an authentication code every 6 hours, the core algorithms delete themselves. No recovery, no backup. It becomes an expensive paperweight. How long do you need? I need 3 hours to code it properly. And Mr. Mercer? Sarah's voice cracked slightly. Bring Theo home. He's a sweet kid. He doesn't deserve this. Nobody does, Ryan said. But he's going to be okay. I promise. The next hours were a blur of preparation. FBI tactical teams moving into position around the warehouse. Marcus coordinating communications and backup plans. Alyssa trying to stay busy while clearly terrified for both Theo and Ryan. This is my fault, she said at one point, finding Ryan checking his weapons in a conference room. I brought you into this. I made you a target. Varen made me a target 6 years ago. You just gave me a reason to fight back. Ryan loaded a magazine into his Glock, the familiar motions calming. And after tonight, when Theo's safe and this is over, I'm taking that job offer. 80,000, remember? 75 and the private school. Fine, but I want dental included. She laughed, shaky but genuine. You're negotiating benefits while planning a hostage rescue? Keeps me focused on the future, on coming back. He finished with the weapons and turned to face her. Alyssa, if something goes wrong, nothing's going wrong. But if it does, make sure Theo's taken care of. Mrs. Chen will raise him right, but he'll need financial support, education funds. Everything's in my will, but I need to know you'll… Stop, Alyssa grabbed his hands. You're coming back, both of you, because I've gotten used to having you around, and I don't accept losing people I care about. You barely know me. I know you jumped in front of 4 armed men to save a woman who just fired you. I know you turned down a chance to kill the man who threatened your son because it was tactically smarter to take him alive. I know you love Theo so much it radiates off you like heat. She squeezed his hands. That's enough. That's more than enough. Ryan wanted to say something meaningful, something that captured the strange connection they'd formed through trauma and trust. But words felt inadequate, so he just nodded. At 8 p.m., Sarah finished the kill switch installation. It's done. Athena will function normally for 6 hours, then self-destruct unless you input this code. She showed him a 16-digit sequence. Memorize it, don't write it down. Ryan memorized it in 30 seconds. Old military training never faded. What if they try to copy the data before the timer runs out? I've encrypted everything with quantum key distribution. Even if they had a supercomputer, they couldn't crack it in 6 hours. After that, it won't matter. Sarah carefully placed Athena back in its case. Mr. Mercer, I know I'm just an engineer, but if you need backup in there, I need you here, making sure this system works exactly as promised. That's how you help. At 9 p.m., Ryan loaded Athena into a nondescript car and drove toward the waterfront. Vance's voice came through his earpiece, tiny, nearly invisible, but a lifeline to the tactical support surrounding the warehouse. FBI teams are in position. Snipers have visual on 4 hostiles outside the building. Thermal imaging shows at least 8 more inside, plus what we think are the children. Theo? Can't confirm individual identities yet, but there are definitely small heat signatures. Kids. Ryan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Katya had taken 3 children, not just Theo, using multiple hostages to complicate any rescue attempt. Smart and absolutely ruthless. The warehouse loomed ahead. 3 stories of rusted metal and broken windows. The kind of place where bad things happened and nobody noticed. Ryan parked exactly where Katya had instructed and stepped out, Athena's case in hand. "I'm here," he called out. "Let me see my son." Floodlights snapped on, blinding. Ryan raised his free hand to shield his eyes. When his vision adjusted, he saw Katya Volkov standing at the warehouse entrance. She was younger than her voice suggested, maybe late 20s, with the kind of beauty that didn't soften her danger. She wore tactical gear like she'd been born in it, and her weapon, an H&K MP7, was held with casual expertise. "Mr. Mercer, you came alone, as instructed." "Where's Theo?" "Inside, alive and unharmed, as promised. But first, we verify you brought the real Athena." She gestured, and 2 men emerged from the shadows, one carrying a laptop, the other covering Ryan with a rifle. The tech set up quickly, connecting cables to Athena's ports. Ryan watched the diagnostic programs run, Sarah's code hidden deep enough that surface scans wouldn't detect the kill switch. "It's authentic," the tech confirmed after 5 agonizing minutes. "Full quantum encryption, all core algorithms intact. This is the real prototype." "Excellent." Katya smiled, and it was the most terrifying expression Ryan had ever seen, pure satisfaction without a trace of humanity. "Now we complete the exchange. Come inside, Mr. Mercer. Meet your son one last time." Ryan's earpiece crackled, Vance's voice urgent but controlled. "Don't go in there. We can breach from multiple points, extract the children, neutralize the hostiles." But Ryan knew better. A breach meant gunfire. Gunfire meant scared people with weapons making bad decisions. And Theo was in the middle of it all. He walked forward, following Katya into the warehouse. The interior was a nightmare landscape, empty except for support columns, and the 3 children sitting on the floor in the center of the space, zip-tied and guarded by 2 armed men. Theo saw Ryan and started crying. "Dad!" "It's okay, buddy. I'm here. Everything's going to be okay." But even as he said it, Ryan was cataloging the tactical situation. 8 hostiles visible, possibly more in the shadows. Children positioned as human shields. Multiple firing positions with overlapping fields of fire. This wasn't just a hostage exchange. It was a prepared execution ground. "You know I can't let you leave," Katya said conversationally, confirming Ryan's assessment. "You and your son have seen our faces, know our capabilities. You're both liabilities." "Then let the other children go. They're not part of this." "They are now. Witnesses must be eliminated. It's standard operational procedure." She nodded to her men. "Kill them." Everything happened at once. Ryan dove toward Theo as the first shots rang out. The warehouse exploded in gunfire, not just from Katya's team, but from FBI snipers who'd been waiting for weapons to be pointed at hostages, giving them legal justification to engage. Glass shattered as tactical teams breached through windows. Flashbangs detonated, turning the warehouse into a chaos of light and sound and screaming. Ryan reached Theo, covering the boy's body with his own as bullets tore through the air above them. One of Katya's men went down from a sniper shot. Another turned to fire at the FBI entry points and took 3 rounds center mass. "Stay down!" Ryan shouted to the children. "Cover your ears and stay down!" He pulled the combat knife from his boot and cut Theo's zip ties, then did the same for the other 2 kids, a girl about 9 and a boy maybe 6. "When I say run, you run for that door. FBI agents will get you out. Understand?" All 3 nodded, terrified but focused. Ryan waited for a lull in the gunfire, 3 seconds when both sides were repositioning, and shouted, "Run! Now!" The children bolted. Ryan provided cover fire with his Glock, dropping 1 hostile who tried to intercept them. FBI agents grabbed the kids at the door, pulling them to safety. Theo was safe. Whatever happened next, Theo was safe. That's when the explosion hit. The north wall of the warehouse erupted outward, not an accident, but a planned demolition charge. Katya's escape route. Ryan was thrown backward by the shockwave, ears ringing, vision swimming. Through the smoke and dust, he saw Katya making for the breach, Athena's case in her hand. Two of her surviving team members provided covering fire while she escaped. Ryan forced himself up, ignoring the pain in his ribs, and ran after her. Behind him, Vance was shouting orders, FBI teams securing the warehouse and treating wounded. But Ryan only had eyes for Katya and the prototype she was stealing. He emerged into the cool night air in time to see Katya reaching a boat docked at the waterfront. She saw him coming and didn't hesitate. She raised her MP7 and fired. Ryan dropped and rolled, coming up behind a concrete barrier. Bullets chipped away at his cover. He returned fire, but Katya was already at the boat, her remaining team members laying down suppressive fire. "Mercer, fall back," Vance's voice in his earpiece. "We have helicopters inbound. We can track the boat." But Ryan wasn't thinking about helicopters or tactics or proper procedure. He was thinking about Alyssa's 3 years of work, about her father's dream, about the future Athena represented. He sprinted for the dock. Katya saw him coming and made a split-second decision. She could board the boat and escape, or she could stay and fight. She chose to fight, tossing Athena's case to one of her men and turning to face Ryan with cold fury. "Persistent," she observed, dropping her empty MP7 and drawing a pistol. "I respect that." They exchanged fire at point-blank range, both shooting, both moving, both refusing to die easy. Ryan felt a round graze his thigh, hot pain but not crippling. His return shot caught Katya in the shoulder, spinning her around. But she didn't go down. She charged instead, using the momentum to close distance, turning the fight into close quarters where her smaller size became an advantage. They grappled at the dock's edge, both trying for killing positions, both too well trained to give ground. Ryan was stronger, but Katya was faster, and she fought with the desperate fury of someone with nothing to lose. She got a hand on his throat. He broke the grip and threw her backward, too hard. She went over the edge into the water, the dark ocean swallowing her immediately. Ryan didn't wait to see if she'd surface. He turned to the boat, where the last two members of her team were casting off. Athena's case sat on the deck, 10 feet away and moving farther with each second. Ryan jumped. He cleared the gap between dock and boat, landing hard on the deck and immediately rolling to avoid the gunfire he knew was coming. One hostile down in the water, incapacitated by Ryan's momentum. The other turned his weapon toward Ryan's chest. The shot never came. An FBI sniper from the warehouse, perfect angle, perfect timing, put a round through the hostile's head before he could pull the trigger. Ryan grabbed Athena's case and dove back into the water, just as FBI boats rounded the bend, their spotlights sweeping the scene. The ocean was cold enough to shock his system, but he kicked hard for the dock, one arm holding the case above water. Hands reached down, FBI agents pulling him up. Somewhere in the distance, a helicopter searchlight was scanning for Katya Volkov. Paramedics were rushing toward the wounded. Vance was coordinating about 15 different operations simultaneously. And standing at the edge of the controlled chaos, wrapped in a blanket with Marcus's arm around his shoulders, was Theo. Ryan dropped Athena's case and ran. He swept his son up into his arms, holding him so tight he worried he might hurt him. Theo was crying, ugly, snotty, scared tears that soaked into Ryan's tactical vest. But he was alive, he was whole, he was safe. "I've got you," Ryan kept saying. "I've got you, buddy. You're safe now. You're safe." "I was so scared, Dad. They had guns and they said terrible things and I know, but it's over now. They can't hurt you. Promise?" Ryan pulled back to look his son in the eyes. "I promise. And this time, I'm never letting you out of my sight again." A paramedic tried to check Ryan's wounds, but he waved them off. "Check my son first. Make sure he's okay." Theo was examined thoroughly, dehydrated, terrified, bruised from the zip ties, but otherwise unharmed. The other two children were similarly okay, already being reunited with their families in a scene that made even the hardened FBI agents tear up. Vance approached, looking exhausted but satisfied. "We found Katya Volkov's body downstream. She didn't survive the fall. The rest of her team is either dead or in custody. It's over, Mercer. For real this time." "The organization?" We're rolling up their network now. Varen's been extremely cooperative once he learned his successor tried to continue operations without him. Turns out even among terrorists, there's professional jealousy. Vance managed a tired smile. You did good tonight. Unconventional and probably illegal in about 9 ways, but good. The prototype? Intact. Dr. Kwan is verifying it now. Vance paused. She also mentioned something about a kill switch? Seemed like a smart precaution. Very smart. We'll need to document that for the official report. But off the record, that's exactly the kind of tactical thinking we need protecting Athena going forward. Ryan looked at Theo, who was now wrapped in blankets and eating cookies that an agent had produced from somewhere. His son caught his eye and smiled, shaky but real. About that, Colonel, Ryan said. I'm taking the job at Nexus Corps full-time, which means I can consult on DoD security protocols, but I'm not going back into the field. My fighting days are over. Understood, and honestly, I wouldn't ask you to. You've earned retirement. Vance extended his hand. But if you ever change your mind, I won't. Ryan shook his hand firmly. I've got more important things to do, like teaching my son to ride a bike and making pancakes and all the boring normal stuff I've been missing. Those are the things worth fighting for, Vance agreed. The boring normal stuff. 2 hours later, after statements and medical treatment and more bureaucratic paperwork than should be legal, Ryan and Theo were finally released. Alyssa had been waiting the entire time, pacing the FBI mobile command center like a caged animal. She saw them emerge and ran forward, then stopped, uncertain. I don't know if I should hug you or yell at you for being so reckless. Both, Ryan suggested. She hugged Theo first, gentle and maternal. Are you okay, sweetheart? I'm okay. Dad saved me. He's a real hero. He really is. She met Ryan's eyes over Theo's head. And apparently he's also an idiot who jumped into the ocean holding a $40 million prototype. It's waterproof, right? That's not the point. But it is waterproof. Despite everything, Alyssa laughed. Yes, it's waterproof. Sarah designed it to survive EMP blasts and nuclear fallout. Ocean water is barely an inconvenience. She stepped back, studying them both. You need food. You need sleep. You need about 1,000 things that aren't standing in a parking lot at midnight. We need pancakes, Theo announced. Dad promised pancakes. Then pancakes you shall have. Alyssa pulled out her phone. I know a 24-hour diner that makes the best pancakes in the city. My treat. They went to the diner. Ryan, Theo, Alyssa, and even Marcus, who insisted on providing security despite Ryan's protests that the threat was over. They crammed into a corner booth, ordered enough food for 6 people, and didn't talk about terrorists or prototypes or anything related to the nightmare they'd just survived. Instead, they talked about normal things. Theo's upcoming birthday, Marcus's daughter's soccer tournament, Alyssa's plans to expand Nexus Corps' research division, the kind of comfortable, meaningless conversation that Ryan had forgotten could exist. Dad? Theo asked around a mouthful of pancake. Can we go home now? I'm really tired. Yeah, buddy, let's go home. Alyssa insisted on driving them. Ryan's car was still at the warehouse, probably impounded as evidence. She pulled up to their apartment building, which looked exactly as it had that morning, despite everything that had changed. Thank you, Ryan said, for everything, for understanding about Theo, for the job, for caring about you both, Alyssa finished. That's not something you thank people for, Ryan. That's just what you do when people matter to you. Theo was already asleep in the back seat. Ryan lifted him gently, and Alyssa walked them to the door. I'll see you Monday? She asked. We need to start planning security for the DoD demonstration, which, given everything, will probably be more like a military operation than a tech presentation. Monday, Ryan agreed, with proper coffee and considerably less violence. Deal. She turned to leave, then stopped. Ryan, I'm glad you didn't die tonight. Me too. And I'm glad Theo's safe. Me too. And I'm glad you're taking the job because I genuinely have no idea how I'd protect Athena without you. Alyssa, Ryan shifted Theo in his arms. Are you saying all this because you're still on an adrenaline crash or because you actually mean it? Can it be both? They stood there for a moment, 2 people who'd been through more together in 2 weeks than most people experienced in a lifetime. Then Alyssa stood on her toes and kissed his cheek, quick, almost professional, but carrying weight beyond the gesture. "See you Monday, Mr. Head of Security." "See you Monday, Ms. CEO." Ryan carried Theo upstairs, tucked him into bed still wearing his clothes, because the kid was too exhausted to change, and sat in the kitchen staring at the letter he'd written for Mrs. Chen, the one with instructions for Theo's care if Ryan didn't come home. He tore it up. He wouldn't need it. The wars were over. The threats were eliminated. He had a job that could support his son, give him opportunities, create the stable life Ryan had been fighting for since he'd left the military. Mrs. Chen knocked softly. "Ryan, I heard you come home. Is Theo okay?" "He's okay. We're both okay." Ryan opened the door. "Thank you for being here, for caring about us. You are family. Family takes care of family." She pressed a container into his hands, her Vietnamese soup, still warm. "You eat, you sleep, you heal." "I will." After she left, Ryan ate the soup mechanically, tasting nothing but feeling grateful for the gesture. Then he showered, scrubbing off blood and ocean water and the residue of violence. When he was clean and wearing old sweatpants and a t-shirt with holes in it, he checked on Theo one more time. His son was sprawled across the bed, mouth slightly open, completely at peace. Probably having normal kid dreams about dinosaurs and video games and whatever else 7-year-olds dreamed about when they weren't being kidnapped by international terrorists. Ryan sat on the edge of the bed, brushing hair back from Theo's forehead. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm sorry I brought this into our lives. I'm sorry you were scared. But I promise, buddy, I promise that from now on things are different. No more danger, no more threats, just normal, boring life." Theo stirred slightly, not quite waking. "Love you, Dad." "Love you too, buddy. More than anything." Ryan slept that night, really slept for the first time in weeks. No nightmares, no waking in a cold sweat, just deep, healing unconsciousness. When he woke, sunlight was streaming through the window, and Theo was standing beside the bed, fully dressed. "Dad, you promised we'd go to the trampoline park today. Remember? For my birthday that's coming up?" "Your birthday's not for 6 weeks." "But you said we'd go! You promised!" Ryan checked the time, 8:47 a.m., way too early for athletic activity after the night he'd had. But a promise was a promise. "All right, trampoline park. But you have to let me have coffee first. Deal." They spent the day jumping, playing, being normal. Ryan's bruised ribs protested every bounce, but he didn't care. This was what mattered. This moment, this kid, this life they were building together. His phone buzzed repeatedly, Vance with updates, Marcus with security questions, even a message from Sarah Kwan asking if Theo liked dinosaurs, because she had some ideas for his birthday party. But Ryan ignored them all. Today was about Theo. Tomorrow, he'd go back to being head of security. He'd protect Athena, help with the demonstration, start building the career that would give his son everything he deserved. But today was just about being dad. The following Monday, Ryan reported to Nexus Corps in his new capacity. Jennifer had prepared an office for him, modest but functional, with a view of the city and a second desk with art supplies. "For when Theo visits," Jennifer explained, "Ms. Grant was very specific about making sure he felt welcome." "That's thoughtful." "She cares. More than she usually lets herself." Jennifer handed him a tablet. "Your security clearances have been upgraded. You now have access to everything. Personnel files, building schematics, even the executive communications. Ms. Grant wants complete transparency." "Where is she?" "Conference room B. The DoD demonstration planning meeting starts in 10 minutes. Ryan found the conference room already occupied. Alyssa, Marcus, Sarah Kwan, David Torres, Colonel Vance, and several DoD officials he didn't recognize. They all stood when he entered. "Mr. Mercer," one of the officials said, extending his hand. "General Bradley Marsh, I've heard impressive things about your capabilities." "Just doing my job, sir. Your job included neutralizing a terrorist cell that's been targeting DoD interests for years. That's considerably more than just a job." Marsh gestured to the table. "Please sit. We have much to discuss." The next 2 hours were intense, detailed planning for the demonstration, security protocols that made Fort Knox look casual, contingency plans for scenarios ranging from cyber attacks to natural disasters. Ryan contributed where he could, but mostly listened, learning the rhythms of this new world he'd entered. After the meeting, Alyssa caught his arm. "Walk with me?" They took the elevator down to B3, where Athena sat in its containment unit, gleaming under the laboratory lights. Sarah was at her workstation, running diagnostics, lost in her work. "It's really something, isn't it?" Alyssa said, gazing at the prototype. 3 years of effort, millions of dollars, nearly dying multiple times to protect it. And for what? A black box that most people wouldn't look at twice. For the future it represents. For the lives it'll save once deployed. For your father's legacy. He would have liked you, I think. My father. He appreciated people who stood up for what mattered, even when it cost them. He raised a daughter who does the same thing. Alyssa smiled. I fired you for being 21 minutes late. You also trusted me to save your life and offered me a career when I needed it most. I'd say you're complicated, not cruel. Complicated. She tested the word. I like that better than what I usually get called. Which is? Ice Queen, Ballbuster, the woman who cares more about technology than people. Those people clearly haven't seen you with Theo, or the way you set up an art desk in my office, or how you jumped into an FBI operation because you cared more about a kid's safety than a prototype. Ryan turned to face her fully. You're not an ice queen, Alyssa. You're just careful about who gets to see the person under the CEO. And you're one of those people now? I hope so. They stood in the laboratory, surrounded by technology that would change the world, and for a moment neither of them thought about security or demonstrations or the responsibilities waiting upstairs. Theo's birthday is in 5 weeks, Alyssa said. I was thinking we could throw him a party. Here, in the childcare space. Invite his friends, get a cake, maybe even rent some of those inflatable obstacle courses kids love. You don't have to. I want to. He's been through something traumatic. He deserves something special. And honestly, she looked at Ryan. You both do. You've given me my company back, my prototype, probably my life several times over. The least I can do is throw a good birthday party. He'd love that. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I've never actually planned a children's party before. I might be terrible at it. Then we'll figure it out together. The days that followed fell into a rhythm that felt suspiciously like normal life. Ryan worked at Nexus Corps, developing security protocols and training the existing team. Theo went to his new private school, the one Alyssa had arranged, with small classes and teachers who actually cared. Evenings were homework and dinner and the kind of boring domestic routine that Ryan had once thought he'd never have. But beneath the normalcy, preparations continued for the DoD demonstration. It would take place in 2 weeks at a secure facility outside the city, with Athena finally leaving Nexus Corps' protection to begin its journey into military applications. Are you nervous? Marcus asked one afternoon while they reviewed the transportation plan. Terrified, Ryan admitted. Every time I think the threats are over, something else appears. Varen's network is dismantled. Katya Volkov is dead. FBI has rolled up 37 operatives across 4 continents. Marcus pulled up a map showing the arrests. There's literally no one left to threaten Athena. That we know of. You can't live in paranoia forever, man. At some point, you have to believe the victory is real. Ryan wanted to. God, he wanted to believe that the fighting was over, that Theo could grow up safe, that this life he was building wouldn't be torn apart by the ghosts of his past. But 6 years of combat operations had taught him that threats often came from directions you never anticipated. Theo's birthday arrived on a Saturday, perfect weather, sunny and warm. The Nexus Corps childcare space had been transformed with decorations, balloons, a cake shaped like a T-Rex, and enough activities to exhaust a small army of 8-year-olds. 15 kids showed up, Theo's classmates, some children of Nexus Corps employees, even the 2 kids who'd been kidnapped with Theo, their families wanting to celebrate survival and normalcy together. Ryan stood at the edge of the chaos, watching his son laugh and play and be completely, utterly himself. Mrs. Chen had come, bringing enough Vietnamese food to feed twice the guests. Marcus brought his daughter, who immediately appointed herself unofficial party coordinator. Even Colonel Vance showed up briefly, presenting Theo with a military challenge coin for exceptional bravery under fire. "He's a good kid," Alyssa said, appearing at Ryan's side with 2 paper cups of fruit punch. "Takes after his dad. He's better than me. Braver, kinder, less broken by the world." "You're not broken, Ryan. You're healing. There's a difference." They watched Theo navigate the inflatable obstacle course, racing against 3 other kids and laughing so hard he could barely breathe. "I never thought I'd have this," Ryan admitted. "After Syria, after the divorce, after everything went wrong, I thought my life was just about surviving. About making sure Theo had food and shelter and the basics. I never imagined," he gestured at the party, "at the life they'd built. This, you earned it, through every hard choice, every sacrifice, every time you chose to do the right thing, even when it cost you." Alyssa set down her punch cup. "And for what it's worth, I never imagined this either. A few months ago, I was alone in a glass tower, convinced that success meant isolation, that caring about people made you weak. You proved me wrong about that. We proved each other wrong about a lot of things. That we did." Theo ran over, breathless and excited. "Dad, Alyssa, we're doing the piñata. Come watch." They watched Theo take his turn, swing the bat with determined enthusiasm, and miss completely on the first 2 tries. But the third swing connected, candy exploding across the floor, kids swarming to collect the treasure. "Best birthday ever," Theo shouted, running back to hug Ryan. "Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Alyssa. This is perfect." Perfect, Ryan thought. Maybe it actually was. The DoD demonstration took place the following Thursday. Ryan, Alyssa, Marcus, and Sarah traveled in an armored convoy, overkill by most standards, but appropriate given their recent history. Colonel Vance met them at the secure facility, a converted military base surrounded by enough security to protect a presidential visit. "General Marsh is already inside," Vance reported, "along with 3 senators, the Secretary of Defense, and about 24 DoD officials. This is bigger than we anticipated." "Bigger meaning more important, or bigger meaning more complicated?" Alyssa asked. "Both. If Athena performs as promised, you're looking at a $200 million contract, maybe more for international licensing." Ryan saw Alyssa's expression, excitement warring with apprehension. This was everything her father had dreamed of, everything she'd worked toward, and it all came down to the next 2 hours. The demonstration was flawless. Athena guided an autonomous vehicle through obstacle courses, urban simulations, and combat scenarios with precision that made the military observers lean forward in their seats. Sarah provided technical commentary, Alyssa fielded questions with confidence, and by the end, everyone in the room knew they were witnessing something revolutionary. "Ms. Grant," General Marsh said as the demonstration concluded, "on behalf of the Department of Defense, I'm pleased to inform you that we're prepared to move forward with full procurement. Pending final contract negotiations, Athena will be deployed across multiple military applications within 18 months. Alyssa maintained her composure, professional, composed, the CEO everyone expected her to be. But Ryan, standing behind her, saw her hands trembling slightly, saw the emotion she was working so hard to contain. "Thank you, General. My father would have been honored." After the officials departed and the facility emptied, Alyssa finally let herself react. She sat on the floor of the demonstration room, head in her hands, and cried. Relief, grief, triumph, exhaustion, all of it pouring out at once. Ryan sat beside her, saying nothing, just being present. Sarah joined them, then Marcus, until all 4 of them were sitting in a circle on the floor of a military facility, processing what they'd accomplished together. "We did it," Alyssa finally said, wiping her eyes. "We actually did it." "You did it," Sarah corrected. "We just helped protect it." "No, we. All of us. Every person who believed this mattered enough to fight for it." Alyssa looked at each of them. "I couldn't have done this alone. And I'm grateful I didn't have to." They celebrated that night at the same diner where Ryan and Alyssa had talked all those weeks ago. The pancakes tasted better this time. Maybe because the weight of constant threat had lifted, or maybe because they were sharing the meal with people who understood what it meant to survive something together. "What's next for you?" Marcus asked Ryan. Now that the demonstration's over, you could write your own ticket. Private security firms would kill to hire you. I'm staying at Nexus Corps, Ryan said without hesitation. Head of security, just like we agreed. Athena might be headed to the DoD, but Alyssa's already working on the next prototype. Someone needs to make sure she doesn't get kidnapped again. I wasn't kidnapped, Alyssa protested. I was temporarily detained by hostile forces. That's just kidnapping with better vocabulary. They laughed, and it felt like release, like permission to finally relax after months of tension. 3 months later, on an ordinary Tuesday morning, Ryan dropped Theo off at school and drove to Nexus Corps. Jennifer greeted him with coffee and a schedule full of meetings about the new prototype, Athena 2.0, focused on civilian applications. The work was interesting, challenging, and completely free of gunfire. He spent his lunch break video calling Theo's teacher, who wanted to discuss Theo's excellent progress in math. Spent the afternoon training new security hires. Spent the evening picking Theo up from school, making dinner, helping with homework. Normal. Boring. Perfect. Dad? Theo asked that night while Ryan tucked him into bed. Do you miss it? The soldier stuff? Ryan thought about Syria, about Victor Veron, about all the violence and chaos that had defined so much of his life. Sometimes. The clarity of it, the sense of purpose. But mostly, no, this is better. Better than being a hero? Being your dad is being a hero, just a different kind. Theo hugged him tight. I think you're both kinds of hero. After Theo fell asleep, Ryan stepped onto the balcony with a beer he still didn't drink and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, threats probably still existed, bad people planning bad things, but they weren't his problem anymore. He'd fought his wars, paid his debts, earned his peace. His phone buzzed, a text from Alyssa. Alyssa. Working late. Want to grab dinner? My treat. Ryan. Can't tonight. Theo needs help with a science project. Tomorrow? Alyssa. Tomorrow works. There's something I want to discuss with you anyway. Ryan. Sounds ominous. Alyssa. Not ominous, just complicated. Good complicated. Ryan smiled at his phone. Good complicated. He could work with that. The next evening, after Theo was settled with Mrs. Chen for a supervised sleepover, Ryan met Alyssa at a restaurant that was considerably nicer than the diner. She was already there, wearing a dress instead of her usual business suit, hair down around her shoulders. You clean up nice, Ryan observed, sitting across from her. You're not wearing tactical gear for once. I'm impressed. They ordered food, made small talk, danced around whatever she wanted to discuss. Finally, over dessert, Alyssa set down her fork. I've been thinking about the future. Nexus Corps' future, my future, even your future, and I realized something important. What's that? I don't want to do it alone anymore. Building technology, growing the company, facing whatever challenges come next, I want to do it with people I trust, people who've proven they care about more than just the bottom line. She met his eyes. People like you. You're already doing it with people like me. I'm your head of security. I'm talking about more than that. I want to make you a partner, not just an employee, but a genuine stakeholder in Nexus Corps' future. Equity, profit sharing, decision-making authority. She pulled out a folder. Of course, she'd prepared documents. I've had the lawyers draw up papers, if you're interested. Ryan stared at the folder. Alyssa, I don't know what to say. You could say yes, or you could say no, or you could say you need time to think about it. All of those are valid responses. Why me? You have David, Sarah, Marcus, people who've been with you much longer. Because you saved my life. Multiple times. Because you care about protecting what matters, not just profiting from it. Because when you look at Athena, you see the lives it could save, not the money it could generate. She pushed the folder toward him. And because over these past months, you've become someone I trust completely. That's rare. That's valuable. That's worth building a partnership around. Ryan opened the folder. The terms were generous, more than generous. The kind of offer that would secure Theo's future through college and beyond. There's something else, Alyssa continued. Something that's not in the business proposal. What? I care about you, Ryan, Not just as a colleague or a business partner, but as a person. I care about Theo. I care about the life we've all been building together, this weird little family we've accidentally created. She took a breath. And I wanted you to know that before you make any decisions about the partnership. Because if you say yes, I want it to be because you believe in the business, not because you feel obligated to someone who has feelings. The word hung between them, fragile and significant. Feelings, Ryan repeated. Inconvenient ones, complicated ones. The kind that develop when you survive multiple attempts on your life together and realize that the person you're surviving with is someone you actually like. Alyssa looked vulnerable in a way Ryan had never seen before. So there it is. Full disclosure. You can take the partnership and ignore the personal stuff, or you can take both. Or you can walk away from all of it. Your choice. No pressure. Ryan set down the folder and reached across the table to take her hand. I have feelings too. Inconvenient and complicated and probably ill-advised. I've been trying to ignore them because mixing business and personal seemed like a recipe for disaster. But you know what? We've already survived actual disasters. Multiple kidnappings, armed assaults, international terrorists. I think we can probably survive dating. Is that what we're calling this? Dating? What would you call it? Cautiously exploring a mutual attraction while maintaining professional boundaries and prioritizing Theo's emotional well-being? That's way too many words. Let's stick with dating. Alyssa laughed, genuine and bright and absolutely beautiful. Dating it is. And the partnership? I need to talk to Theo first, make sure he's okay with Dad having a business partner who's also more than that. But if he's good with it, then yes, absolutely yes. They finished dinner talking about the future, not the threats or the dangers, but the possibilities. New prototypes to develop, new technologies to protect, a company to grow, a family to build, a life to live that wasn't defined by survival, but by choice. Later, walking to their cars in the parking lot, Alyssa took Ryan's hand. Thank you. For what? For not walking away that first day, when I fired you, when you had every reason to let me face those attackers alone. You stayed. You fought. You chose to help even when I didn't deserve it. You deserved it. Everyone deserves someone willing to fight for them. Even Ice Queen ballbusters? Especially complicated women who are secretly kind and care too much and make terrible first impressions. She kissed him then, right there in the parking lot, with security cameras probably recording and the night air cool around them. It was soft and tentative and perfect. Tell Theo I said hello, Alyssa said when they pulled apart, and that I'll see him this weekend. I promised we'd work on his science project together. He'll like that. He's been asking about you. Has he? He thinks you're pretty cool, for a grown-up. High praise from an 8-year-old. I'll try not to let it go to my head. Ryan drove home that night with something that felt suspiciously like happiness blooming in his chest. He found Theo and Mrs. Chen watching a movie, and after thanking his elderly neighbor and sending her home, he sat his son down for a talk. Buddy, I need to ask you something important. How would you feel if Alyssa became a bigger part of our lives? Not replacing Mom, but maybe being someone who's around more often. Someone who cares about both of us. Theo's face lit up. Like a girlfriend? Something like that. Would that be okay with you? Dad, she threw me the best birthday party ever. She's helping with my science project, and she makes you smile. Of course it's okay. Theo paused. Does this mean we get to visit Nexus Core more? Because the childcare room has really good video games. Probably. Would that be okay? That would be awesome. Ryan pulled his son into a hug, grateful beyond words for this kid's resilience, his kindness, his ability to adapt and thrive despite everything he'd been through. I love you, Theo. Love you too, Dad. Even when you're being all mushy and weird. That weekend, they met at Nexus Core, all three of them. They worked on Theo's science project together, turning it into something that was probably over-engineered but definitely impressive. Sarah stopped by to offer technical advice. Marcus brought his daughter for a play date. Even Jennifer joined them for lunch in the cafeteria, chatting about mundane things like traffic and weather and school enrollment. Normal, safe, good. Later, while Theo was occupied with the other kids, Ryan and Alyssa stood in her office, looking out at the city that had nearly cost them everything but had ultimately given them this. "I signed the partnership papers," Ryan said. "Made it official this morning. Then I guess this makes us business partners. And personal ones." "That too." Alyssa leaned against him, comfortable and familiar. "Think we can make this work? The business, the relationship, raising Theo, protecting the next prototype?" "I've done harder things. We've done harder things. Together." "Together," Ryan agreed. Because that was the truth he'd finally learned after years of fighting alone, surviving alone, carrying the weight alone. Some battles required backup. Some victories were only possible when you trusted someone else to stand beside you. And standing beside Alyssa Grant, with his son laughing in the background and a future that finally felt possible stretching ahead, Ryan Mercer, former soldier, single father, reluctant hero, finally understood what he'd been fighting for all along. Not victory, not revenge, not even survival. Just this moment, these people, this life, this